This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
You are listening to the Voices of Wrestling podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
X out and go listen to some boring podcast where they're afraid of their own shadow. Okay? Don't listen to Joe Lanza, because Joe Lanza's not changing.
And Rich Craich.
Give me a name. Like who delivers this guy in a big spot?
Joe, don't yell at me.
In the big spot, who delivers better than this guy?
Just stop yelling at me. I agree. All right, we're live here on the Voices of Wrestling Flagship podcast. I'm Rich Craich, alongside, as always, King of Banter, very good family man, and a man who finally has baseball back in his life, Mr. Joe Lanza. Joe, it's back. You watching the baseball? Watching the hardball, as the kids say?
Of course I have it on.
So what you got? Nats Yankees, right? I've been out doing stuff, so I haven't watched yet. It's Nats Yankees, right? Is our opener?
Yeah, it's the gimmick where they give you the two national games tonight, and then everybody else plays tomorrow. I hate that shit, but assuming that next year is a non everybody's dying of a disease year, I don't know if you saw this, but opening day is back to just everybody plays on opening day.
I saw that, which is awesome, because I'm right with you. It's like a weird thing that like not that many people care about, but like your hardcore baseball fans all fucking despise. Like the thing I hate the most, actually, I think more so than like the Sunday night opening day thing, as opposed to just everybody starting on Monday, is the week prior Mariners versus Athletics in Japan game that kind of counts, yet there's still people playing spring training games. So like the standings pages are all messed up. Like you go to the standings of like, ESPN.com or whatever, and they have like the regular season, and it's like Oakland 3, Seattle 3, 0-3 or whatever. And then like below that, they still have to keep the spring training standings too, because like there are still teams like cutting guys in spring training, even though the Oakland Athletics and Mariners already have 3 games under their belts. I get why that happens. I understand why that happens, but my OCD does not like that either.
I just made the same rant on the Thursday TV.
Did you really? That's incredible. We're such curmudgeon assholes. Jesus Christ.
About how I hate when they start the season in a foreign country a week before all the other teams start.
Like my team's still cutting guys. I'm still wondering who's making the the roster or whatever. And it's like, Thursday night in the Tokyo Dome, and here's the fucking Athletics and the Mariners. I'm like, what is happening? And I'm like, wait, this is a regular season game? Like, what are we doing here? It's so weird.
It ruins your fantasy.
It's dude, every single week I always forget to fucking start if I have any athletic, because it's always like the fucking Mariners, and it's usually the Athletics too, because it's like, who gives a shit about the Athletics? We'll throw them in Japan because it's fine. They can get some fans for once or whatever. But yeah, I always forget to start those guys. And I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, why does the season start on a Thursday a week before everybody else? Like, what are we doing?
Baseball opening day should be all 30 teams start on the same day, mostly day games. You want to stagger a couple night games in for the TV schedules, that's fine. But everybody should start the same day, and the Cincinnati Reds need to throw the first pitch in the first National League game. That's the way it was for 80 years. Then we had to go fuck with it, and I hate it. So next year we're back to normal. This year I can give them a pass. I think
it's a fair year to give just about everybody a pass on stuff, so.
Yeah, I give him a pass this year. But next year, I was so excited when I saw that. You take off from work, you don't go to school, you blow off school, and you wake up that day, and you watch day baseball. It's usually a weekday. It's like a Monday, right? And it's like you just stay home, eat some fucking wings, you load up on some snacks, right? And you watch opening day.
Yeah, it used to be really fun, like, when I was in high school or like middle school or whatever. I didn't want to, so they incentivized us, and they used baseball to incentivize us. In high school, if you got perfect attendance, you got free White Sox tickets. And now, mind you, White Sox tickets were like $6, so I could have just bought those and taken days off, but it was like an achievement. I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to get perfect attendance. They were good White Sox tickets, so, whatever, I'll take them. But they incentivized us with that, so we didn't want to take the day off. We always decided, okay, forget it, we're all going to go there, we're going to do it or whatever. And most of my friends, we all did that as well. Like, the plan was to get perfect attendance all year and get those free White Sox tickets. Again, I wish our parents would have just given us $10. It would have been a lot easier. But anyway, that's what we did. But I do remember opening day a lot. Like, if you had a cool teacher, the cool teachers would, like, throw on a radio or slide in the TV on the wheels. You know, the old TV on the wheels gimmick.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So he'd like, you know, it's slide. It was half and half. Like you'd have your curmudgeon old like English teacher, and she's not gonna fuck around with that. She thinks it's ridiculous. Baseball's stupid. You know. And I think she's stupid too, and I think her class is dumb as well. And then you had like the coaches, you know, the coaches that had to teach random class, like random football coach that teaches science, even though he probably knows nothing about science, but he's a goddamn good offensive coordinator, so he teaches biology. Like he would put it on the radio or play it, or your history teachers, or forget it if you had driver's ed or gym or whatever. I mean, gym they may as well just cancel that day because it would be the same thing. They'd have a radio on, they'd throw a TV in there and stuff. So yeah, I'm right with you. Like I was never home on those days. I was always at school or whatever, but it became a tradition of like, oh hell yeah, opening day. Like we're not gonna do shit at school, like because all the cool teachers are not gonna let us do anything. And then you got really mad at the and then you were in that 40 minutes shitty English class or whatever, and you're like, god damn, what's going on? I missed everything. What happened in this hour that I was gone? And so it was kind of fun also to catch up. So yeah, I always have a soft spot for opening day.
My parents would let me stay home for opening day, and they'd let me stay home for the first 2 days of March Madness. So I was very lucky in that regard. I remember, too, in 1993...
Well, your dad probably needed help with the bets, right?
Oh, well, you know.
He was like, Joe, what do you think?
Of course.
Whoa, Joe, hey, where are you going, pal? Stay here. I need some help.
Of course we're calling in plays.
Right. I mean, he's got you on the phone while he's... Yeah.
So I remember, I think it was 1993. I remember I had my mother come get me out of school early so I can go home and watch the Colorado Rockies, Florida Marlins expansion draft on ESPN.
Got to watch Charlie Huff, fucking 55-year-old Charlie Huff throwing some knuckleballs. Yeah.
Do you know who went number one in that expansion draft? Don't look it up. Do you remember?
I don't.
There's a Rockies pick. David Need.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't work out.
No, not great. Yeah, no, a lot of the expansion draft did not work out well for either of those teams. That was a rough ride for both teams for a while. Well, actually, the Rockies weirdly got good right away because off the bat they signed Andre Galarraga, right?
The Rockies, yeah, they went for it early.
Even in their expansion year, they signed a huge free agent, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they went for it early. The Marlins, like you said, their big splash was Charlie Huff.
Right, 60-year-old knuckleballer.
Yeah, I think he started opening day.
He did start. No, I remember vividly. He started opening day, and there's a. If you ever watch the pitch, it's it was clear that the ump was like, "Look, Charlie, don't bounce it, and I'll give you 3 strikes, so it could be a strikeout in the first pitch in Marlins history or whatever." I mean, this knuckleball is 9 feet out of the strike zone. He's strike 3, and even the batter is like, "Oh, come on, are you kidding me?" And then realizes that whatever, yeah, sure, okay, give them their fucking strikeout. Everybody cheers. They toss the ball, and they go, "Oh my god, Charlie Huff, he's old, and he got a strikeout," and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, and then I think it got lit up the rest of the game. So, or maybe not. I don't remember, but that team was terrible too. So.
It's funny because 5 years later, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays loaded up on veterans. Fred McGriff, Wade Boggs, all at the end of the line. But the Diamondbacks ended up being better faster and going to a World Series in 2001.
Yep.
So they went to the World Series 3 years later, but it was the Devil Rays who took the strategy of let's bring in let's build a veteran team and try to draw fans right off the bat. And ironically enough, they haven't been able to draw fans since. So it's just weird how that worked out too. The strategy when they began the franchise backfired badly, and the Diamondbacks were better much faster. But yeah, the Rockies. Well, when did the Rockies? Yeah, they had all those teams with Galarraga and.
Yeah, they were good already by 96 or so. They were already in there, but then weirdly the Marlins win the first the World Series in 97 just out of Wayne Huizinga being like, fuck it, just sign everybody. I want to sell this team. Let's go. I'm going to prove that you could just win a World Series just by trying. And he brings in Sheffield and Cliff Floyd's there, and he signs a bunch of dudes, and Moise Salou's there. You know what I mean? He just Kevin Brown's there, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, they end up winning. But the Rockies were already good in by 95, 96 if I remember correctly. It's just they didn't obviously go to the World Series until many years later.
Yeah, Larry Walker, all those guys. But wait, I want to go back to these $6 White Sox tickets. Were you watching Nellie Fox? What do you mean $6?
Well, Joe, I don't know if you watch many White Sox games, but they aren't very well attended. So at many times during my childhood, it was very cheap and very affordable to get White Sox tickets. So they legit had, like, I think on Mondays, it was like half price Mondays or whatever, like no matter what, which was fantastic. Great games to go to. They were always packed. It was pretty fantastic. Then like, yeah, Tuesdays, like the bleachers were like $5 or whatever. Yeah, they had I mean, these days it's, you know, even through the rough ride that they've had over the last 10 years, it's been a little bit more expensive to go, but now you just go to StubHub or whatever. But in those days, like, their face value for some tickets were pretty low. They were not, until the World Series came, it was very affordable to take a family to the south side to watch a White Sox game. So partially why I enjoyed going to them. I grew up my entire life and never went to a Cubs game because they were too expensive, and I fucking went to hundreds of White Sox games because even my friends would be like, "Hey, you want to go to the White Sox game?" Like, yeah, sure. Like, you could just go. You know what I mean? Like, and there was always available tickets. Never an issue to buy tickets. So yeah. No, I did not see Nelly Fox play. I didn't see Louis Aparicio and Nelly Fox.
Rich sitting
Mini Minosa.
Sitting in the front row for Shoeless Joe Jackson with his $4 tickets. Who was on the White Sox when you were in high school? Like Ron Kittle? Like,
no. How old do you think I am? Ron Kittle? What? He was like, he retired in like 1988. What are you talking about? No, it was like I was in the Magler Ordonez, Carlos Lee, Frank Thomas, Ray Durham.
All right, I was thinking, Lamar Hoyt.
No, it wasn't Lamar Hoyt and Greg Luzinski. Like, get out of here.
John Cangelosi.
Right.
Ron LaFleur. All the
Dick Allen. Yeah, I'm like, put him in the Hall of Fame.
Dick Allen should be in the Hall of Fame.
He should be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I had some guy, like, random dude. I went to the White Sox 2005. This is a ridiculous show that we're doing right now, but I enjoy it. I was at the 2005 White Sox parade, and there was a guy there who had like a sandwich board or whatever and a megaphone. He just wanted people to be educated on Dick Allen. He said Dick Allen needs to go to the entire parade. I remember we were sitting right behind this guy, and I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be a long parade, just screaming Dick Allen to the Hall of Fame, Dick Allen to the Hall of Fame. And I thought, man, this guy's really annoying. And I went and talked to him, and it was a fantastic conversation. He was like, he was citing like Bill James stuff. He's like, well, if you look at the advanced stats, and I'm like, that changed my life talking to that guy. I'm so glad I did.
Was he Dick Allen?
It wasn't Dick Allen. No, he was. I don't even think he was related to Dick Allen. I just, given certain parts of his physical appearance, led me to believe that he was not either Dick Allen or a relative of Dick Allen. But
Rich, it's okay. You can say
he was a very white guy. Yeah, he was a very, very white man. But no, it was a great conversation. And ever since that point, I was like, yeah, fuck, Dick Allen does belong in the Hall of Fame. So
Dick Allen has monster numbers. The problem, it was for a short period of time.
Raging shitbag to everybody. So
you're right. It was for a short period of time, so he doesn't have the counting stats, and he wasn't a very nice man to the reporters. So, and that's who's voting you in. But I agree. I mean, you look at his nut. I would vote Dick Allen for the Hall of Fame. I'm more of a peak guy. I respect the longevity too, but I have a lot of respect for the peak. So his numbers are too good to deny. It's a great wrestling show we're doing.
This I was about to say. Like, imagine like someone from the UK listening to us talk about Dick Allen, who they've never heard of. Even people that watch baseball are probably like, "Who the fuck is Dick Allen?" Like, that's real in the weeds. The Dick Allen for the Hall of Fame conversation. But I enjoy it. The real ones know it, and they're bobbing their head right now, being like, "Yeah," or they're on Baseball Reference right now, and they're going, "Oh man, yeah, these guys are right." So
that was the White Sox era with the red pinstripe uniforms.
Mm-hmm, indeed.
Yeah, early 70s. Well, like 72. That's around time he played.
Yeah, like late 60s. Yeah, the red pinstripes were their late 60s to kind of late 70s or whatever. And yeah, he was like 72 to 76, 77, 78, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. He played for the Phillies, a couple other teams too. Tremendous hitter,
Famous for the Sports Illustrated cover where he's got a cig on the bench, which is incredible.
Yeah. He reminds me a lot of Gary Sheffield, where they were just tremendous hitters. But a little surly off the field.
Yeah, one of my favorite players of all time, Gary Sheffield, by the way. Love Gary
me
Sheffield.
Too. Yeah, beautiful swing. I mean,
well, the problem was I tried to recreate that swing my entire life, and many coaches were like, Rich, you want to, I don't know, They calm down the movements there, and I'm like, nah, Sheffield does it. They're like, okay. Like, unfortunately, kids in my generation, we grew up with Ken Griffey Jr. and like Gary Sheffield as like two like monster hitters. Both guys that are like completely batting stances you should never recreate ever, except if you have like if you're an all-time great athlete with incredible bat speed, you can do what those guys did. But you don't think that every kid showed up trying to do the Griffey swing and had to get it coached out of them. Well, unfortunately, the Gary Sheffield thing never got coached out of me, so I stopped playing baseball. But
Griffey had a beautiful swing, and it was the complete opposite of Sheffield's. It was this, left-handed, beautiful, textbook stroke, right? And Sheffield was a right-handed hitter with a violent swing, and he was even anxious in the box. I could picture it now. He'd be swinging that bat back and forth and with the wrists, and he'd take that big step and that big hitch in everything they don't teach you to do, right. But the swing, but once he got into the swing, it was so violent and he swung so hard. And they didn't have exit velocity when he was around, but I guarantee you he would have, led the league in exit velocity during his prime years because he hit the ball so fucking hard. I mean, he was just a tremendous guy to watch hit. So you're right; those are two great swings, but two very different swings too. Griffey's swing was just beautiful. Impossible to recreate.
Yeah, and that was the issue. Is every kid is putting that bat right up onto their neck. And like swaying back and forth and trying to get around the ball, and it's like, well, are you 6'4" and one of the greatest athletes of all time? No, then I don't know. That might be tough to get any hits off this, but it didn't stop kids from trying. Myself included was one of them as well. That I also tried the Frank Thomas had a tough swing to recreate as well. It was all you had to have like tree trunk legs to pull it off, a lot of front leg, a lot of that sort of stuff. So I tried that too, and it also did not work. So it's possible that I was just a bad hitter as well, which. If maybe the stance wasn't the issue, more so my, hand-eye coordination or my swing. But, yeah, regardless, I tried all those and they didn't really work. They work better for softball, slow-pitch softball. You can have a nice hitchy swing and it's fine, so.
A lot of pop-ups, though. You're going to hit a lot of pop-ups with that big hitch. Look, I'm trying to be a batting coach here.
I like it. Yeah, it's good. And I was always a ground ball guy, though. I would always turn it on over. Yeah, never pop-ups.
Because you're a sabermetric guy, you're probably playing. You're the guy who plays. You're the guy who plays intergender softball. Where everyone else is having a good time, and you're out there trying to draw walks.
I'll plead the fifth on that.
Yeah, you're out there trying to draw walks. You're being selective at the plate. You're up there like Joey Votto.
I have led multiple slow pitch softball leagues in on base percentage. I will say that for sure. So
yeah,
it's a good value. Like I had guys. I was on like a co-ed team once, and the guys. It depended where I was in the lineup. Like if I was lower in the lineup or whatever. But my thought is like, and I always like to be lower in the lineup. Draw that walk. The harder the lineup comes up, boom. I led the league in runs too. I'll say that. So
Yeah.
And our teams won. It frustrated everybody because they're like, God damn it, Rich, just swing the fucking bat. It's slow pitch softball. Yeah. We're all drunk. We're drinking. We're all having a good time. And I'm here like, nope. That. Arguing with the ump about, I don't know about that one. It's on the corner there, but
Yeah, you're the guy where I'm on your team and I'm yelling at
yes.
you to swing.
Oh yeah, no. It happened plenty of times where they're like, Rich, come on, just swing the damn bat. When I did, it was good. I it's similar to Votto. Like I was very selective, but when it was a good pitch, I'd light it up. But never swung at a first pitch in slow pitch softball, though. Always let that first one go every single time.
Oh my god!
You're gonna get a better one in the at bat, I promise. So
you don't know that.
I don't. Yeah, that's fine. But...
You're just trying to work the walk. I played in the league. I played in one of those intergender leagues where. If you were
they call them co-ed, but I like how you're putting it into wrestling terms with intergender. I like it. We need to at least keep some wrestling going here, so go ahead.
This is a wrestling show, sir. Where if you were a dude, if you drew a walk, it was a double.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Listen to Rich light up.
Oh, wow, where is this? Is this Jersey?
Because this was in Texas. Because the idea was... They didn't want people pitching around the guys to get to the girls.
Yeah, oh, you don't think in co-ed I knew that? Oh, fuck yeah. Dude, I love taking walks in co-ed leagues.
So
one of my co-ed leagues had that now that I remember that, but the other one did not. So,
and guys started with a 2-1 count, too. So they'd start you with a 2-1 count if you were a guy. And if you drew a walk, it was a double. And the other thing was if you drew a walk... The girl batting behind you had the option to take an automatic walk as well.
Dude, I did have one league that did that now that I remember.
So if a guy walked, it was like automatically first and second if you wanted it to be. But again, we weren't all a bunch of rich creatures. So the girls didn't want to take the walk. They wanted to swing.
You want a really good story about that?
I would love to hear one of these crates.
Okay. So my one buddy is starting a co-ed league or whatever. We're struggling to find girls, and he says, "Hey, do you think like Michelle would want to do it?" This is like pretty early in our relationship, and Michelle's very good at climbing and being a nurse, but softball and most other athletics, not so much. Not a huge fan. So he's like, "Well, what about Michelle?" And I'm like, I don't think so. And he's like, "Well, just ask her." And I'm like, "I'm not." And I told him I asked her, and I didn't. And then he kind of circumvents me and sends a message and goes, "Hey, did Rich ask about the co-ed league?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, no, we're trying to start a league. Like, he said he asked you or whatever." So I get like...
You know what? You're a disgrace. I know it is. Why can't put your own wife in the league and throw her out in right field where no one's going to hit the ball? I mean,
okay,
come on.
Well, here's what we did. So she does eventually join the league. She says, "I want to." She's never played softball before, never played any form of baseball or anything before. So we go out. We have an intense 1 month training session where we're out there throwing, giving her grounders, swing lessons, all that sort of stuff. It's not going well. It is very bad. I'm very worried about how the season's going to go. So we get there. I find out that the rule is that the man can go to second, and the woman behind can elect whether to take the first base or not. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, here we go, because there's no chance in hell she's ever hitting this ball ever, and she never did, for the record. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm like, Dan, this is my buddy. I said, okay, I got a plan. Bat me and bat Michelle behind me. I said, if I get a hit, I get a hit. Okay, whatever. But I'm trying to get walks out here, baby, because then what we're going to do is then Michelle will get on first because she's an automatic out no matter what.
You can't let her take her hacks.
She took some hacks. She never got a hit, though.
You can't let her take her hacks.
She started to get into this. I got her. I turned her later because she realized that she hated swinging the bat. She was scared of the ball. So then later in the year, so eventually it was the thing where, I would go to first. She would go to I would go to second. She would go to first. She wasn't a big fan of running the bases either. There was one point where the third base coach told her to go home, and she said no, and she just stopped. So it's like, oh boy, this isn't gonna go well. I love it. They're like, all right, home, and she's like, no, and she just stopped, and we're like, oh, all right, I'm at second or whatever. I have to pull on the brakes, or fall back to second base or whatever. So she wasn't made for slow pitch softball. But eventually, we decided that we had to switch the lineup. She couldn't be behind me or for whatever reason. So she tried to swing a bunch of games, didn't really work out, and she just said, hey, if I walk, I just go. Like, if I don't swing and they throw me, X amount of balls or whatever, I just go to first base, right? And I said, yeah. And she goes, oh, cool. So she never swung the bat ever again. And her on base was fantastic. So
both of you were a disaster. Swing the bat. You strike out. I mean,
she started to realize. Well, she got bored. She felt bad that she was striking out. And she just said, well, if I don't swing and they don't, the ball doesn't go near the plate, do I get to go to first? And I said, yeah. And she goes, oh, all right.
You'd bunt if you could.
Absolutely.
You'd be dropping one down the line.
Absolutely. Tell the guy in third to, little suicide squeeze. Absolutely.
Third baseman not paying attention.
I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win, Joe. I don't know about you.
I was in a work league, and I took a relay throw from shortstop, and I forgot that there was like a teenage girl playing catcher. Because you put him at catcher because you put the worst fielder at catcher. Right, because there's really, and I'm just in my adrenaline's running. And I'm in the middle of the play, and I take the relay throw, and I turn around, Rich, and I fire it home. And I'm talking fire, and halfway through the throw, it occurred to me what I was doing was a mistake. And it all went in slow motion. I could see her put her arms up to protect her face, and I broke her wrist with the throw.
Oh my God!
Yeah. She wasn't prepared for it's my fault. I mean, I should have remembered who was back there. You know what I mean? But you're not thinking about it in the moment. In the moment, you're just, I'm taking the relay throw and there's a runner going home.
Yeah, no, for sure. I had in one of my leagues, I had a shortstop guy who he played division. I think he played D1 baseball or whatever. It was incredible. This dude never made a bad play. Every time we had him on our team, we won the championship. Hit every single time, a fucking triple or home run, no matter what. Never made a bad throw, never made a bad play. Just like the perfect perfect shortstop you've ever seen in your life. But the problem with him though is he didn't know how to not whip it and throw it And I've played first base a lot, and dude, this guy would just fucking the batter's not even out of the box. Like the batter, it's somebody who doesn't even care. It's somebody's wife that just showed up because they needed an extra player and she just wants to drink. So she taps at 4 inches and he runs up there like it's the Game 7 of the World Series. Yeah. Just fires it in. I'm like, all right, dude, reel it in, buddy. Let's go. Well, what I had to do though is because he kept like throwing it. We had the same deal as you. Like our catcher was like just this girl who just showed up. He's like the friend's wife or whatever. That she was a nice woman, of course. She didn't really want to play softball though. She just was there to support and have some fun and drink some beers or whatever. But he would just like fire exactly like you. It'd come in the relay and he'd just fucking fire it and like it'd bang off the back cage, or it'd she'd scream and it would just go right past her. So eventually me at first base, I had to cover home every single time that there was a relay throw, which got exhausting as hell. So I just never could avoid this guy whipping balls as fast as humanly possible at me. But
he was a handbreaker.
Yeah. But we assumed that we didn't want this. This guy's wife. He kind of went up to me. He's like, "Hey, I really don't want Nicole or whatever to die. So do you mind covering home?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's no problem." So because he tried to tell this guy "Hey, can you not throw it 78 miles per hour at my wife or whatever?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And then lo and behold, exactly like you. Next pitch, he's just firing it over to her. She screams, and it's like, okay, this is going to end poorly. So I'll just cover for you. So
I did. I mean, I just wasn't doing it on purpose. I just wasn't. You're not thinking.
I think he's like this kid clearly played baseball his entire life or whatever. He doesn't know how to not try. You know what I mean? It's just to him, it's instinct, especially as he's a lifelong shortstop or whatever. So the second he gets that throw from relay, turns around, he just fires it. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't think that it's Nicole, this dude's wife or whatever. So yeah, he's just
He's out there wearing eye black.
Oh yeah, no, of course he was eye black guy. Yeah, he had eye black. He had baseball pants on. Dude slid when he didn't even have to slide, for no fucking reason. He's sliding all the time. I loved it. So great player though.
Whole nine. Yeah. Ridiculous.
Great at going opposite field. The second he recognized there was nobody good in right field, he'd go opposite field, hit homer. I mean, just fucking incredible player. So.
There's always a couple guys who are too good for the league.
Yeah, this became a point with this guy. Yeah, where we're like, I don't know, should we really have him on our team?
Why aren't you playing fast pitch somewhere? Why are you mucking it up with, guys out here just trying to have a good time with their wife? You know what I mean? That's the guy. And he never he doesn't contribute a woman to the team either. That guy always comes alone.
Oh, he was straight ringer. Yeah, just I don't even know who knew him. It was some way that he got on our team. I don't even know his connection, but goddamn, I was glad he was on our team because we.
Right. That guy. You're right. That's the other thing about that guy. No one knows who he's friends with.
I have no idea the connection to this guy.
He just shows up and he's on your team, and it's you're not even sure who he knows. It's a good point. That's always the case. He carries his bats in a bag. He's got the bag. He wears the eye black. He doesn't really talk to anyone unless it's about the game. It is the only communication he has is who's covering second if there's a ball hit to right field. That's basically the only thing he's going to say to you. He doesn't hang out with anybody after the game. He's all business. Never consumes any alcohol. That guy. That's the guy. And there's always 2 or 3 of those in the league. And they should go off and find the appropriate league.
He was good. He was so ungodly good. I don't think he ever made it out, ever. So
it'd be like if one of us went and just played in Little League with 12-year-olds. What? How's it even fun? Why do you even want to do that? I don't know.
Well, you want to talk pro wrestling at some point?
I mean, I'm good with this.
Oh, I'm pretty good too. I'm good. Slow pitch softball stories with Joe and Rich.
Yeah.
Joe and Rich live out their vicarious baseball dreams by playing slow pitch softball.
I played on a team so bad that I was forced to play third base because no one else on the team could make the throw to first.
That's not great.
They couldn't reach. So I played on some horrendous teams. But I'll tell you what,
those are the most fun though. I love those teams.
They really are. It's not even a cliche. Those are it's pressure free. When things do go well, and if you do happen to win a game, it's you won Game 7 of the World Series.
Oh, you go out. Everyone's out after the game. The beers are flowing. Everyone's just reminiscing about the game. You're 1-9 in the league. Your run differential is 200, but you win that one, and everyone's going out. Everyone's partying. It's great.
The nurse finally gets a hit, and she's a gigantic hero.
That team was good. We had incredible dudes on that team, which we had to stack because, it didn't go well. But no, that's Like I played on a team a few years ago as well. Listeners might remember this because I always used to have like move days around when we were doing the flagship. We started doing flagships on Tuesdays and shit. And the reason I quit is just because every game was like too serious. It was like, oh my god, life and death. I'm like, come on guys, I just want to fucking. And then I joined one league that my buddy was on. He was like, these guys, they need some extra guys. You want to come play? And I was like, yeah, sure. It was great. They were horrible. And they would say, hey, what position you want to play? I'd be like, you know what? I haven't played left field in years. Let me go play left field. They're like, sure. Knock yourself out, kid. Like my buddy who has no knees, can't walk. He limps. He had multiple knee surgeries. They had him at shortstop because he was like the only guy that could. And it was fantastic. It was great. You got some at bats. You had some fun. You know, it was. I love bad slow pitch softball teams are the best. I never get upset about a loss. Who cares? Whatever. You know, when it's a good team, it's good. But yeah, you like to kind of chill and take it easy sometimes too. So
there's bad slow pitch softball teams, and then there's bad wrestling pay-per-views. Like we saw this Sunday. There you
go. Look at that.
With the horror show at WWE Extreme Rules, which we did review match by match, thorough, went 90 minutes on it. $10 tier, patreon.com/voices of wrestling. That was a live instant reaction. So that is on the live $10 tier if you want to hear us break down that show from start to finish and in extreme detail. Little clarification, people always ask. If something is broadcast live, it's going to be on the $10 tier, even on demand. Okay, so that's only fair to the $10 subscribers. Now, if we happen to do an instant reaction that isn't live, that will be on the $5 tier. And, you know, there will be the occasional instant reaction that isn't done live. You know, sometimes Rich likes to do them in his car on his way to work in the morning. Or, you know, usually if it's solo, it won't be live. But if it's live, it'll be on that $10 tier, whether you listen live or listen to the, I guess, what do you want to call it?
Like the audio feed or whatever, streaming. The RSS, the audio feed, whatever. Yeah. So we're not going to do a full review of the show match by match, but there is the. Can you imagine running that back?
No,
I know. I never knew that the Observer does this, where Brian Alvarez will go live immediately after the show, or maybe it's not live immediately after. It's like a little bit after. Him and Vinny will do a review of the pay-per-view, and I never knew that. I never knew they did that, because then he runs it back, and at like 3 a.m. he's got to talk about the show again with Dave, and I'm like, oh my god,
couldn't imagine.
Like I could hear it in his voice. He's like, Dave, the horror show at WWE Extreme Rules, and he's just like, you know, and then just waited for Dave to talk, and I'm just like, dear God, can you imagine talking about that show for an hour, waiting 3 more hours, and then talking about it again? It was just like, the idea of talking about this now is horrifying me, and I don't want to do it. So.
Well, I mean, the fallout here, and the question for me coming out of this abomination, and it was really just the finishes and the booking more than anything else. I think everyone pretty much agrees that the wrestling was very good, and the matches were well worked, but the booking and the finishes and everything else having to do with the show was an absolute fucking clusterfuck mess, which... In a rare case, I think even the company itself conceded that, because they rewrote the entire Raw the next day, which also didn't work out very well for them. So I feel like they know. And there was, you know, reports that some of the wrestlers weren't happy with the show either. Why would they be? You go out there and kill yourself only to get booked into these horrendous finishes that nobody likes. So I think it's fair to ask the question, Rich, is this one of the worst WWE pay-per-views of all time? With all things considered, the finishes, the near universal negative reviews, I don't think I saw one positive review on a major site. And then the fact that the Raw the next night did some of the most disastrous numbers that Raw has ever done in the history of the show, including 1/4 hour, the third hour rather, which did a 0.42 in the demo, which is the lowest in the modern history of Monday Night Raw. When you consider all of that, the lack of interest leading into the next night, because even bad pay-per-views, there's interest in the Raw the next night, typically. There was a total lack of interest in Raw. The show itself was a disaster. We saw some of the worst finishes in history. Toss in that it was in the sterile COVID environment and all that brings to the table. is this one of the worst WWE pay-per-views ever?
I think it's actually it has to be in the conversation when you take it in the way that you mentioned. If you add the Raw to it and you add the follow up, because usually pay-per-views get some sort of follow up where people are somewhat interested. Well, this was clear that people either watched the Horse Show at Extreme Rules and decided I'm definitely not interested in watching Raw, or they didn't watch the Horse Show and then they didn't watch Raw. Like whatever it was, whatever factor it is, you do have to play up. What happened with Raw the next day has to put it in the conversation, and I do think it is in that conversation. I do think there are some other ones, are we sticking strictly WWE? Because there was a few that I thought off the top of my head.
WWE.
Okay, if we're talking WWE, like the one that comes to mind, I think, for everybody, and actually kind of feels a lot like this show, too, with the last-minute rewrites, the complete chaos going on backstage, the, just the no interest in what's going on, the sterile environment, all that sort of stuff. December to Dismember is one that always comes up, because, like, literally, Paul Heyman's like, fuck this, I quit. Vince is rewriting the show as it's going on. The ECW brand basically dies on that day. Like, everything that happened with that show, it's in a weird environment. It's in like some weird ass arena in Alabama or some shit. I forget where it was exactly. It's Alabama or Arkansas or whatever. It makes no sense where it is, and it's just silly beyond belief. And it's a bad show to boot. The wrestling's no good, and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know. That's the first one that comes to my mind, and I'm sure there are some others, and I do have a list of some others as well. But like, what do you think?
Just quickly, December to Dismember, Rich, was in Georgia, I believe.
Georgia, that's right. It was at like
it was in the South.
Yeah, it was again. It wasn't like an ECW. It wasn't like the Hammerstein Ballroom or whatever. It was certainly an environment that wasn't very conducive to ECW pay-per-view. But I think that's the one that initially comes to everybody's mind, or at least comes to my mind, as just like completely disaster pay-per-views. And not just because of what was on the show, even though it had its issues and stuff, but more that like the fallout resulted in like so much happening as well, where people are leaving the company and all that sort of stuff, and Paul Heyman's done and all these guys are done. So that's one that absolutely comes up there. I think King of the Ring 95 is another one. Obviously Mabel winning the King of the Ring, not a great idea. Shawn Michaels like eliminated pretty early in the King of the Ring tournament. Every other match on the show basically stunk. The crowd's just chanting ECW the entire time. It's just complete. To me, that's why like the December Dismember is whatever. That was a complete disaster for a multitude of reasons. The King of the Ring to me feels a lot like this horse show, because it was like, you have no idea what your fans want. Like, that arena is chanting ECW and booing everything you do, and you're just completely on whatever other wavelength you're on. So that's one that again, that's one that kind of comes up to me initially, is that King of the Ring 95 and December to Dismember are the two that I think to the top of my mind. And King of the Ring 95 might even work better as a comp for the horse show. But I do think the December Dismember, because of all the chaos going on backstage as well, does, I think, play it up a little bit or help it out slightly.
Yeah. The December to Dismember, again, yeah, like you said, it was not in a good ECW city, number one. And this was still when the ECW brand had connections to the original ECW. This wasn't the ECW brand years removed from that, where it didn't really matter anymore. This was still had the old kind of feel to it to some extent. So that didn't help. I think it drew under 5,000 fans. So there was almost nobody in the building. There was only 2 or 3 matches announced, with like a week to go before the show. So it was poorly built. Then the show ended like 90 minutes early.
Right.
90 minutes or 2 hours long or something.
Sabu's taken out before the main event, so he doesn't even wrestle. It's like...
that was a key thing, because he was taken out of the Elimination Chamber in an angle, and the crowd, that's when the crowd turned on the show. They booed that, and they turned on the show at that point because they wanted Sabu in the match. The people that did buy a ticket were there to see ECW. They weren't there to see Hardcore Holly or Test or whoever it was that replaced them. So that was a bad idea. And then, of course, you had Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon having their very famous dispute in the back over how to book the match. And, Bobby Lashley is who Vince McMahon wanted to win the match. Paul Heyman wanted, since he lost that fight, and it was, he at least wanted to get CM Punk over by having him eliminate the Big Show right out of the gate. He wanted CM Punk and the Big Show to be the first 2 guys in the ring. Big Show was the champion coming in. And that's the typical Heyman move, right? You beat the champ first in a multi-man match, which then guarantees you're going to get a new champion.
Right, yeah. Thousands of times he's ran that same thing.
He always uses that. And it's a great idea, because then it puts you at the edge of your seat. Because then you're like, oh, we're getting a new champ tonight, because the champ was the first guy eliminated, right? So he wanted to eliminate Big Show, and he wanted CM Punk to do it before anybody else even entered the match. He basically wanted CM Punk to squash Big Show and submit him, because he was doing the MMA gimmick at the time. And that way, even though Punk wasn't winning the match, because that would have been Heyman's choice to win the match, Punk gets over in the match anyway, because he eliminates the Big Show in impressive fashion. And then whatever you do from there. And he was also against removing Sabu from the match, because he knew, Sabu could do some crazy things inside the chamber, and people came to see Sabu. So there was tons of fighting between Heyman and Vince McMahon, and that led to the famous line after the show where Heyman knew the show was a disaster, based on what he had just seen, and he was all depressed about it. And Vince asked him what was wrong, and Heyman was like, "Well, did you just see the show we put on? It fucking sucked."
Right.
And it led to the famous line from Vince: "It was an excellent show with an excellent finish," because all Vince McMahon was concerned with was Bobby Lashley winning at the end and holding up the title. And then, as the story goes, the next day when the feedback started coming through, and Vince saw all the negative reviews and all the negative feedback from their fans, he also realized that the show was terrible. But at the next TV, Heyman ended up quitting because he saw that he was going to lose that power struggle forever, and the whole brand was becoming something that he knew wasn't going to work. That's the truncated version of December to Dismember. When I get around to that show on Jovember to Remember,
oh dear God,
10 years from now,
10.
I'm going to go into extreme detail on it, because that is a fascinating night, and that was like the Cliff Notes version. And I don't know if a lot of people know, all of that drama that was taking place like during that show and the fallout and why it occurred. But yeah, the show was terrible. Now, I like that show in a non-ironic way, and I know I'm like the only person on earth who enjoyed that show, so I concede that I am the outlier opinion. And yes, that is one of the worst wrestling pay-per-views period of all time. And King of the Ring 95, I think, is another one as well. But I think, December to Dismember, the fact was that was the end of that brand. I mean, it was all downhill from there until it basically just became a developmental brand. I mean, from there, it just, WWE ECW became where they would bring their call-ups to kind of get their feet wet before they call them up to Raw or SmackDown. And, and there'd be one or two big stars. The original idea was to, use Chris Benoit in that role, and then he killed his family. But then later on, you'd have people like Christian towards the end, I think, was like a veteran that they'd put on the show. He was a champion towards the end, too.
Yeah.
And there were other guys, too. They would put, I think Shelton Benjamin, they tried to give him the gold standard gimmick was started on ECW.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out. And it would be a mix of like veteran hands and then young guys from FCW, like that got their start there. Like Kofi Kingston got his start there.
Yeah. Ezekiel Jackson, I think, too, right? Yes,
he did. Sheamus got his start there. There's a whole bunch of them. You could just go right down the line. Shawn Spears got his start there. How about that one? What was his name when he came up to ECW? I can't remember.
Oh, now. Yeah. What the hell was Shawn Spears' name then? It wasn't Ty Dillinger, obviously, but yeah. Oh, what was his fucking name?
No, it wasn't Ty Dillinger. It was Shawn Spears, wasn't it?
Or was it Gavin?
Spears.
Was it Gavin Spears?
Gavin Spears.
I forget if it was Gavin or Shawn. It was either one of those two. I remember Gavin, but yeah, I'll try to look it up if I can. So
that's how far back he goes, So that's just a fascinating era of ECW. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, December to Dismember was a terrible show, which had a lot of terrible fallout, just like this show. I mean, you look at Raw, Rich, and remember, this is a Raw post pay-per-view, which is supposed to get a bump. I already noted they did their worst hour ever in the 18 to 49 demo with that .42 third hour, headlined by Randy Orton and The Big Show, right? But there's other numbers here that Meltzer reported that are just staggering. Year-over-year drops in the 18 to 34-year-old demo. They dropped 76% over last year's show. 76%. The 18 to 49 demo is 60% drop, and overall is a 47% drop in viewership year over year. From last year.
What was that one again? So read that first one back again. The one that was a 70 plus. Is it what, a 79% drop?
In the 18 to 34 adult demo, they dropped 76% from last year.
That's ridiculous.
And coming off of a pay-per-view, this is why I say this may go down as one of the most disastrous pay-per-views. And keep in mind, too, that a lot of the stuff that they did on the pay-per-view was designed to get people interested in Raw.
Right. I think that's the other part that plays into this a lot as well. When we talk about, King of the Ring and December to Dismember and all these other, terrible pay-per-views in history. Well, those pay-per-views were just bad because a lot of the bad stuff that they had planned during the show or whatever. But this entire show was rewritten so that they could hook you for the next night. Okay, Sasha's going to win the title in disputed fashion. So go watch Raw to see what's going to happen there. This is going to happen, so go watch it. There was multiple things on the show that were rewritten at the last minute to change things around, to do shitty finishes, to do screwjob finishes, all that sort of stuff, with the idea that, then they're going to watch Raw to see what the follow-up is. They're going to watch Raw to see if Sasha Banks really did win the championship. They're going to watch Raw to find out if MVP really did win the championship. They're going to follow up on Raw to see what this is. There was multiple parts of that show that were designed exclusively to get you to watch Raw, and it didn't happen. And I talked about this last week. There used to be and even in the early days of us doing this podcast, there always used to be those things that we'd say, okay, Vince wants to get the ratings going, so he'll do X. He'll build up a good pay-per-view and do a bunch of stuff that's going to kind of hook you for Raw. And it would bump up the ratings a little bit. Or he's going to debut this guy and bump up the ratings a little bit. He's going to turn this guy and it's going to bump the ratings up a little bit. We now see that none of those things work. Even having a pay-per-view that's designed exclusively around getting people to watch your TV, which, again, I don't think is the worst idea. It kind of stinks. It's bad for, a viewer like me who wants to watch these pay-per-views and enjoy them and all that sort of stuff. But with that being said, you look at the WWE Network and how important that is to their business, and you look at how important TV ratings are and how important the USA deal and all that sort of stuff is to, I get it. I understand why they have that idea of all right, look, let's build the pay-per-view to Raw. It's another kind of laughing at WCW thing that WWF used to do and every podcast used to do. Oh my God, look at WCW. They're building the Nitro instead of the pay-per-views. But the landscape has changed a lot. So whatever. I don't have a huge issue with that. It kind of stinks, but whatever. It didn't even work. It didn't even work for that. They sacrificed a pay-per-view. They sacrificed a lot of great matches, great stories, great wrestlers, great performances. All that sort of stuff got sacrificed to build the Raw, and it's one of their worst ratings of all time. It's ridiculous.
You can make a better argument that that's a better strategy today, since TV revenue is what drives the cart as opposed to the pay-per-view revenue, or in this case, the network revenue, which they seem to have thrown the towel on anyway. When WCW was doing it, it was especially stupid to use the pay-per-views to build the TV, because the pay-per-views are what was the top revenue driver. The pay-per-views were your lifeblood then.
Right.
And they were more concerned with winning what ultimately was a meaningless ratings battle than concentrating on the quality of their pay-per-view shows. Because it meant more to them to be able to puff their chest on Tuesday afternoons, whereas, okay, maybe, if you had lost a few of those 52 weeks, but we're killing it on pay-per-view, you might still be in business today. You talk about that all the time. The ratings war then was far more of a chest-puffing thing than now. It's vital in that you're making the majority of your money. AEW does not exist without their television deal. So the ratings are vital. It's very important for them to do well against NXT. So that's what got them that 4-year renewal, right? So it's actually not as bad of a strategy now. I still think it's a bad idea to use your pay-per-views to build your TV, though. I think you want to keep your pay-per-views and your network events feeling as special as possible, so people feel like they have to pay a premium because they're seeing something special. You don't want people to think they're just going to see angles to build towards Raw, because now you're making Raw the more important thing, which it is in this environment. But you want people to want to spend that $9.99 a month too to watch these other shows. So to me, it's kind of sacrificing those pay-per-views and you mitigate their importance when you're using them to build Raw. It's also a sign of desperation, is really what it is. It's they know there's a problem with their television ratings. And all of these moves that they're making are signs of desperation. And it clearly didn't work. Raw did horrendously. And Rich, I don't know if you noticed or if you watched Raw, or if you
no. Believe it or not, I did not watch Raw.
I watched the whole 3-hour show. I watched the entire thing. And I have to tell you, this Bruce Pritchard, and look, I know a lot of it is Vince. Okay, I know a lot, and ultimately the buck stops with Vince. We all know that. But a lot of this stuff has Pritchard's fingerprints too. And this Pritchard Vince team, the Orton Big Show main event, obviously, as we know, was a colossal failure. I mean, the worst hour of Raw in modern era.
Who would have fucking thunk that? Jesus Christ.
Well,
I mean,
Big Show,
come
well,
on.
Big Show debuted in 1999 and Randy Orton debuted in 2001. And this would be the equivalent of an Attitude Era Raw headlining with Spiros Arion versus Tony Gurria. Think about that.
Right. I love those. Yeah, I love those. It's like, it's utterly ridiculous. Like, I love those ones where you think of like, yeah, it would have been like in 1997, fucking Bruno coming out and beating Stone Cold Steve Austin for the title or whatever. It's ludicrous. It's ridiculous.
Guys, it's like, it would be the equivalent of in 1999. What was The Rock's big year? 99?
In 98, 99. Yeah, 99. Let's go with 99.
It's like, it'd be the equivalent of in 1999 when you do the same math of like Spiros Arion, who was a big deal in 1978, still headlining on Raw in 1999.
Right, John Leo Jonathan coming out and challenging him to a match.
Yeah, and
it's like ridiculous.
It's two old guys. It'd be like Spiros Arion and Tony Gurria still being top guys in 1999. That's what you're getting with, Randy Orton and Big Show, and it's like, this is total Pritchard, and you look and they totally, the Seth Rollins Aleister Black match. I mean, what are we doing here? Like he didn't just beat Aleister Black; they basically wrote him off. They people say buried a lot. This was a true burial because Rollins not only won the match, but then they attacked him in the post match and laid him out and injured him.
Yeah, I did see the clip of that, which was startling.
So it's like, why? Why do that to Aleister Black? I mean, here's someone who is fresh and unexposed and someone who Heyman wanted to get behind, but it was very clear that Vince was never on the same, because it would be start and stop, or they would just do these weird things. And then, Garza and Garza and
Andrade.
Then they lose a non-title match to Street Profits. It's not even a title match, a non-title match. And it's like they lose and they look like goofs. And it's like, you can see, and we talked about this when Pritchard took over, you're going to quickly find out which of the Heyman guys Vince was behind and which of the Heyman guys Vince was not behind.
Do you think it was quicker than you even imagined?
I mean,
because you can look a month out and see I could write down every single guy that obviously that they didn't see eye to eye on.
Okay, so obviously Aleister Black.
Yeah, for sure.
The way he was booked this week. And look, people are going to say, well, let it play out. And it's like,
stop with that shit. We've let a lot of stuff play out in this company. We're always right. We're always fucking right about it. I hate that.
And it's like, that's just not what they do. Like, this company, like, okay, if this were another promotion.
Remember the arguments with Cedric Alexander? No, him losing to AJ Styles every week is going to help. And we're like, no, it's not. And no, it might help. He's becoming a bigger star because he's losing to a star. Okay, that's not going to work. Yeah, it will. And then, you can't find him with the fucking search party anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he's teaming with Ricochet now. They were the main event crew for a long time. And, now
losing to Brock in 4 seconds is going to be good for Ricochet. It's going to help him. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and then he ended up on main event for months, for like 6 months.
Begging people on Twitter to watch main event, please. It's a good show, I promise.
And now they're trying them as a tag team now, but it's like, they're not going to get behind those guys. And it's like, so, and then Black, the way he was treated this week, and then Garza, and I can never remember, and La Sombra.
Oh, Andrade.
Yeah, Andrade. So, they're doing some story with them where they're on a classic losing streak, Rich. That one always
works well. Yeah.
And it's like, that's Bruce Pritchard, Vince McMahon stuff. And we tried to tell people, look, Heyman's Raws were not good. I know. When did we come on this show and rant and brag about?
No, they stunk. They were bad.
But at minimum, he was trying all of these new people, or attempting to try with these people, which Bruce Pritchard's never going to do, because he's just going to do. He's writing a show for an audience of one, and that's how you end up with Randy Orton and Big Show in your main event, while Ricochet and Cedric Alexander are depushed, and Aleister Black is being written off, and the hot tag team that was on the come up is losing non-title matches, but there are some that Street Profits, that was a Heyman call, and they appear to like them. They're still being pushed. Drew McIntyre. Now look, we stated our case on that. I think the minute the fans are back, Drew McIntyre is done.
I'm gonna make. Can I make an update to that?
Sure.
I think at SummerSlam that boy's eating an RKO.
That's possible too. That's possible too. I'm not. Look, the jury's out on Drew because he's still been booked strong. I don't like him a couple weeks ago, like teaming with R-Truth and stuff, because R-Truth, a main eventer should be nowhere near R-Truth, but that's just what they do. And but to me, the jury's out on Drew. But I'm with you. I don't think long term he will keep his push. I think he is a stand-in for Roman Reigns. They appear to like the Street Profits, so that one stuck. They brought back Shayna, but where she been? Like, she came back and now she's gone again. So I don't know what's going on with Shayna, but they did bring her back. But look, Vince never liked Shayna Baszler. He fought with Heyman on Baszler, and especially when she got poor crowd responses. That seemed to be it for her. So, who else is there? That's most of them, right?
Yeah,
Liv
Morgan's an interesting one. She's just randomly gone.
She's gone.
Yeah.
Liv Morgan's gone. Apollo Crews we think has COVID, right? So that might be a little asterisk next to that one. Because, his push was being maintained. But who knows? He may have lost to MVP anyway if he was healthy. We don't know. So I'd say that one is still, up for review. But it's very clear that some of the Heyman guys and girls have been, either taken off TV or buried. And the results are just getting worse, though. That's the thing. And again, Heyman's Raws weren't great and his results weren't great. The show was sliding. But there's something to be said for building towards the future and accepting that things are going to burn now. What are they doing now?
Yeah, they're doing nothing to build for. It's all short term. Next week. Pop a number here, and we're seeing that it's fans are realizing quickly that no, I'm good. and again, like you said, the Heyman Raws were not doing well. The ratings wise, were not doing well. But you could look up and down the card. Like I'm looking at one from April 6th. Right now, and you could see the amount of kind of young talent, interesting talent, long matches, stuff that are going on, and that's the other thing too that's going on with Raw of what I have watched. I DVR it every single week. I don't even know why I do it anymore. I basically just fast forward through most of it. I did not fast forward through this week. So even this week, I was like, I'm good. I need some separation. But they've even gone to fuck it, let's just have 2-minute matches. The matches are never long anymore. They're really quick. Just people talking all the time, just a ton of talking. And again, you look at that and you contrast that with a Heyman Raw, and yeah, it's night and day difference. Like on this Raw that I'm looking at, April 6th, Aleister Black and Apollo Crews have a 27-minute match. Like that'd be unheard of on today's Raw, a Bruce Pritchard written Raw. That'd just be unheard of. And yeah, it wasn't all good, and there was a lot of stuff that was bad. And we said at the time too, we're in favor of building for the future. Look at picking 10 guys and saying, look, we're going to try with these 10 guys. 5 of them are probably not going to work. 3 might be iffy, but hey, if we strike on 1, if we strike on 2, we're good. We're good. We have created a new star. We've created somebody new. They're not even trying that anymore. Bruce Pritchard and Vince are just deciding, hey, who worked in the past? Boom, there we go. The fucking Big Show. I cannot, it was a joke. Remember when I made the joke that they were going to bring the Big Show back, and they fucking brought him back, and they've been pushing him ever since. And it's just dude, what are you doing? Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that anymore. And your fans, your young fans, those 18 to 34s or whatever that you were talking about, the 18 to 35s, those ones, dude, they weren't even born when Big Show. They were 10 years old when the Big Show had debuted. You know what I'm saying? Case Lowe, who writes for our website, was born the week that he debuted in WWE. Yeah. We had a guy that on Twitter said that when Big Show debuted in WCW, he was in 6th grade, and now he has a 6th grader and an 8th grade child. It's ridiculous. What are we doing? Come on.
Yeah, and it's
generations have passed.
And Randy Orton's a nice guy to have on a roster, but it's there's no evidence he was ever the level of star that they think he is. And now he has this wonderful statistic, on his belt for the worst hour in Raw history. So, the Heyman era was more, and people are going to say we're Heyman apologists again, but I'm just giving it to you straight. The Heyman era was a teardown and a rebuild. It was like when a baseball team presses the reset button, trades all of their assets, and starts over. It's going to take some time. And it was going to take at least 18 months to see what you had there if you were truly... But when you're constantly working against the person who's making the final calls and they're not letting you see your vision through, it's impossible. I'm sure I can say with confidence that it wasn't a Heyman call to have AJ Styles just squash Cedric Alexander and beat him 4 times in a row. That just goes against how Paul Heyman books. You know, same thing with Ricochet eventually losing that. Like, that's the opposite of the Heyman doctrine of how to book pro wrestling. So I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I pin that on Vince. I do. If that makes me an apologist, fine. But I have history to back up why I don't think that would have been his call.
Right. We have 30 years of his booking and, 40 years of Vince's booking. And it's pretty obvious, where that would fall on the ledger there. So
his MO has always been use the older stars to get over the new stars. Always. That's always been his MO. And like the cuck stuff, that's Heyman. That's bad. And that
it fucking stunk, but it was Heyman all the way. Yeah. He's trying to get horny teenagers to watch his television show.
And for a while it was starting to work. Remember, they started to increase their young female demos, and it's like people rip that stuff, but it was starting to. I don't like it. I don't want it. The cuck stuff and using the edgy language and having people curse, slip some curses in there. That is Heyman's fingerprints as well. I mean, it's very clear to see what he was getting through and where he wasn't getting through to his boss. And they have a love-hate relationship, and they were never going to get along long term. Bruce Pritchard gets in the room and he just does whatever he thinks is going to appeal to Vince and extend his job security and everything else. That's all. And it's like, and this is the result. And, just something like talking about reforming the Nation of Domination.
I saw that. I was just like,
it's like, okay, maybe it would work out. Maybe it would be cool. But why are we reusing an idea from 20 years ago?
Right.
Do something fresh.
I can't believe MVP has come in and he's like a vital part of this company again.
It's crazy.
It's 2020, and it's like, okay, on the same breath, like, I love Johnny Swinger and I love Tommy Dreamer on Impact, but that's Impact. Like they have a very thin roster. Well, they used to have a thin roster, but
but here's the thing: Johnny Swinger wasn't a vital part of Impact 20 years ago. He's just a retro character.
Right, exactly. Well, and I meant, like, this is a company that has signed literally every good North American talent, save for like 3 or 4 guys, and they're like, God damn, MVP, that's our guy. Like, as we're recording this, I'm scrolling and I see MVP and WWE in negotiations for a long-term deal, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Now look, he's done a good job with.
No, I've liked it. Yeah, he's been good, but
he's been okay. Like, people are overrating how good he's been. Like, he's been fine. He's been, but it's like, that's the basic problem with the company. They always look backwards because they have failed to look forward. They're so bad at moving forward that they're constantly looking backwards to save themselves. And he's a very small part of a larger problem. Okay. MVP getting a retro run in a flourishing company that's doing well and doing some good mid-card promos isn't a problem. That would be a positive. The problem is they're constantly digging into their past to try to save their ass because they're so horrible at setting up their future. So instead of being like a little positive, like, he ends up being part of a larger problem, and he's part of the problem that gives you Randy Orton Big Show main events that completely flop because they've completely lost touch with their audience and what their audience wants and what a new audience wants. And they're a complete failure to make stars. I mean, maybe Heyman's guys wouldn't have worked out, but we'll never know now. Because he wasn't given free reign to do the job, and now they've pulled the plug on half of them. Maybe Montez Ford, like, they're still pushing them. Obviously, Montez Ford is the star of that team long term. I think we would all agree there. Maybe he's the guy that eventually breaks out. I think he has that potential. But do you have any confidence in how they handle that?
Yeah, zero. And that's the other issue, too. And I do wonder if there are a lot of people now, little by little, that are watching and realizing that there's just no reason to invest in these future guys. There's no reason to invest in anybody. There's no reason to invest in any sort. Like, we say that like from a smart standpoint and like, oh, they're not going to push it. But like, fans realize that too. Like, even your casual fans know that a guy is like, on the come up, or that a guy is interesting, or there's someone that they enjoy or whatever. And there's just no need or no reason to invest in any of those guys because we as smarks can go back and look and say, oh, well, they haven't built anybody in years. And like, legit, they haven't. But like, even your casual fans, they have to be feeling it and seeing it too, realizing, wait a minute, what? Big Show and Randy Orton? Like, come on. That shit I watched when I was a kid. Like, you got nobody else. There's nobody new. There's nobody interesting. And time again, it's not like we're this super hot take that building young stars is the way to, go through any wrestling history, save for a brief period in WCW where they decided, let's roll back Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and Ric Flair and Roddy Piper and all those sort of guys. I will argue that Diesel and Randy Razor Ramon obviously were big parts of that. But save for that one moment in WCW where the NWO formed, and they had to completely transform their characters, by the way, to do it. But save for that one moment, what has always pushed wrestling is new stars, new people, fresh stars, whatever you want to say, even if they're not new, just fresh, different, new, whatever. That has always pushed pro wrestling. And somewhere along the line, they've forgotten it, and it's costing them. I mean, it's costing them the casual fans, and it's obviously costing them the hardcore fans. But yeah, it's just like there's just no reason. Like, even if you were a casual fan, why would you watch this? What would possess you?
Well, you're not. Well, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you don't like it, stop watching. Well, yeah, okay, no one's watching anymore. Like, it's 78% or whatever of that age group have just stopped watching. I think that is the most galling number right there, because your old fans or whatever, we say every single week they're just going to turn on USA at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever, and they're just going to watch the wrestling. They're going to watch wrestling. And that's what they do. I have a guy at my work, and every week he watches wrestling. He means WWF when he says wrestling, or WWE when he says wrestling. But every single week, he's 61 years old or whatever. Like, I don't know that, but your fans that have other options, that have other entertainment options, that have other things to do, are just saying, I'll go watch something else. In droves, 78% year over year have decided, I'm good.
Yeah, and I mean, Brandon Howard had a great thread on Twitter, and he noted that even with these steep declines, we haven't really reached a point where they're in any kind of serious danger of the networks pulling plugs and whatnot. And they do have several years left on these deals to turn it around. That's the thing. The money is guaranteed from the USA side for 4 more years or something like that.
I believe so, yeah.
And and they can, and that money is going to sustain them. I mean, all you need to know about that is there's a very good chance they're going to have their most profitable year of all time during COVID. That's how incredible these television deals are for them. And this is year 1. But where I disagree with Brandon to some extent, and I don't want to speak for him because he may actually agree with this point, is that, yeah, Fox might be looking at these SmackDown results now and saying, well, it's not what we expected, clearly, but we're still sometimes number 1 in the demo, and we're still doing a lot better than we were doing, among younger viewers than previously. And we're only spending $1.9 million per hour for the programming because it runs 52 weeks a year. So these are suboptimal results, but we'll live with them. And I think that's really what's happening with Fox right now. But the problem is, Rich, I don't think they've bottomed out. That's the issue.
I agree.
There's no evidence that they're done falling.
This is supposed to be the good period. I mean, I know there's COVID. I know there's all this sort of shit. But summer is when they get their, like we said, the Fox deal was signed for summer to say, hey, fuck it, great. Now we got sports in the summer. We're going to sustain the summer when, normally we lose ratings or whatever. But we're going to have a hook now. And USA, same deal. Like, in the summer is when you're supposed to be building this up. To have record lows now, and I agree as well. Like, I really, and I am fascinated to see how next week, and especially the week after go, and we've talked about it for weeks, and it's on the horizon, it's coming. This Monday, that was their last without sports, without direct professional regular season sports or postseason sports or whatever you want to call it, whatever this weird sports season that we have coming up. Next week is a full slate of MLB games, and the week after that is MLB, NBA, and NHL playoffs all on a Monday night, which is unprecedented. A lot of those companies, a lot of those will stay away from Monday nights. There's very rarely national televised NBA games on Monday nights. They do that later in the year after Monday Night Football. Baseball on Monday nights, yeah, they do that, but baseball nationally isn't that big of a deal. I do think this year could be different. We're going to see about that. And NHL, NHL playoff hockey does pretty good, usually. The playoffs, everybody gets excited, and even if you're not a hockey fan, most people agree that playoff hockey rules, and it's awesome. They're jumping right to fucking playoffs. So you have playoff hockey, regular season Major League Baseball in a condensed season where every game matters more than ever, and the fucking dynamo that is the NBA up against, fucking Lakers, LeBron James and the Lakers and stuff. And it's just like, dude, we haven't seen it, and I'm with you. Right now, it's bad. In 2 weeks' time, circle back. There's no way that it's not an absolute bloodbath. And you asked me a few weeks ago, could they go under 1 million? And I said no. I don't know.
even outside of the stiffer competition and this perfect storm of competition because COVID pushed all the sports back and are forcing them all to run against each other. I mean, just their own product is so bad, and their fans are rejecting it. So and we keep seeing worse and worse results.
They're in a vacuum. They're in a vacuum right now, and they're plummeting ratings. And there's nothing else to do or watch, and they're losing ratings.
So maybe that $1.9 million per hour is still kind of a value for Fox. But Rich, it wasn't that long ago where people were saying, where we were like, I don't know, 2.5 million viewers on Friday nights on the network, and people were like, oh yeah, but they're still crushing everything else. They're doing 0.8s in the demo. Now we're down to 0.4s in the demo in the summer on Fox, and we're doing 1.7 million viewers a week or whatever it is. And now the argument is had been forced to shift again to, well, it's suboptimal, but it's good enough. Well, what's the next step down from here?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's, we can't work under the assumption that this is where the floor is. If this drops down even lower and they're consistently getting beat on Friday nights, what happens when that 1.9 million per hour is no longer of value? And when Fox says to themselves, all right, well, there's other forms of cheap programming we could put on that are even cheaper than this that can get us the same results that this is getting us. And you could argue that when fans come back, maybe they'll get a bump from that. And I think that they will, but I don't think it will sustain because the show is what it is and it's bad. The core issue is that the show is fucking horrendous. It's bad. SmackDown is bad. Raw is bad.
I do wonder as well, not to kind of interrupt, but, as I'm kind of thinking about this as well, is that, you're talking about Fox, who already has a relationship with Major League Baseball. And if they see the MLB ratings are doing pretty good, I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility, and I have no idea the legalities of this, to say, you know what, fuck it, yeah, we'll pick up a Friday night game. Someone's playing on a Friday night. People are playing every night, Major League Baseball. It's not like you need to save a night or stay away from a night or whatever. Why not? Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, we'll put on a MLB Fox game. And nothing's out of the window. And these leagues are not going to really play hardball because they fucking need to make money too. So if Fox says, hey, we'll pay you X million, and they'll go, yeah, whatever, who cares? Sure, who cares? We'll take the money. And
for now, they seem pretty committed to leaving SmackDown on Fridays. And it does still make sense for them to do that. But we're getting to the point where it's going to start to not make sense for them to do that if they continue to drop at these rates.
Right.
And we could talk about sports competition and everything else, but at the end of the day, it's the core product, and it's
in their own vacuum, they're fucking terrible, and there's no end in sight either. That's the other thing as well. In any other instance, we've been over the 9 or 8 years worth of show or whatever the hell. We've always talked about this guy, that guy. Yeah, okay, what if you push this? We've always had in our mind, we hate fantasy booking, but there's always felt like there was, all right, push Daniel Bryan, all right, push CM Punk, or even in those days, Bray Wyatt, or hey, they're trying with Roman Reigns, it's not working, but they're going to keep trying with him or whatever. Dude, if the question that you brought up a month ago, and it's still and anytime anybody talks to me, and they always say, if I'm talking to a friend, they go, well, what can WWE do to get better, or what, and everything, and I always ask them, I said, okay, next week I want you to give me the best rating you could possibly give. I want you to give me the best match, the best rating, whatever, for Raw next week. What's your match? What's your main event?
Yeah, we've done that exercise. It just doesn't exist.
And just like you do, all my friends, they go, they just kind of go, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, I know. We've reached that point where legitimately I couldn't, short of saying, hey, Dwayne, how you doing, pal? What's up? John, how are you?
Or maybe, maybe if a year ago they sustained their pushes for Cedric Alexander or Ricochet or Shayna Baszler or whoever, maybe you'd have some money matches on the table.
Right. Even if they're ridiculous, a lot of times in the past, we've always had these dumb, dudes on the mid card that we think are really good that should get pushed higher. Everybody has that. I don't even have one of those anymore. I look at Raw.
It's Montez Ford.
Yeah, I guess that's Montez Ford. I know, that's what I mean. But that's really, I love Montez Ford, but man, if he's the savior, that's not great.
I really feel like if he is handled properly, he can be a huge star. I really feel that way.
No, I think he's fantastic too. It's just again, it's also the faith thing too. I can't even in my brain imagine them deciding, yeah, he's our guy. You know what I mean? I can't even fathom them doing that.
How can they not see the potential in that guy? He's got charisma. He can talk. He does things athletically that no one else can do. He invents shit, that splash that he does where he turns in midair. I mean, he's a total package. I mean, he pops off the screen. I mean, that's a guy I'd be handling with care. I would be building him to be my top guy right now, where, it's obvious he has a ways to go, but I'd be assembling the foundation and the building blocks for that guy. It's like I'd call up Adam Cole and I'd start the clock ticking on that, and give that a shot on either Raw or SmackDown, one of the two shows. Adam Cole beats Daniel Bryan in the run-up to Survivor Series, and they do such a good job with NXT in the run-up to Survivor Series. And, oh, by the way, do tremendous numbers on Wednesday nights while they were doing all of that, if you recall. So people were into it. And then after Survivor Series, they just piss it all away. And it's forgotten about, and no one really benefits from any of it, and they all cool off. And I know they heated up Keith Lee again later, but I don't think that was a sustained push. So it's like, there's guys that the roster's loaded. I mean, you have Bianca Belair, who was another one who just gets called up and then disappears into the ether. Why? I mean, why isn't Bianca Belair mixing it up with Sasha Banks and Bayley right now and getting the rub from them and being built up to be on their level and hopefully become bigger stars than they are? Because I got news for you. They're not turning it around either. Okay? For all the talk that they get and how as good as they've been, we need to pump the brakes on Sasha Banks and Bayley because they've headlined a lot of these shows. And, they're not exactly popping monster numbers either. So why isn't someone like Bianca Belair mixing it up with them and taking the next step? Why have they done what they've done with Rhea Ripley? You can go right down the line. Yeah. Rich, there's people there to answer your question. And I'm talking, deep. People like Montez Ford, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, they haven't even scratched the surface on pushes with these people. And in some cases, they've started to push them and then just pissed it away for unknown reasons. So I don't want to hear that. I'm not letting them off the hook. There's people there that a good booker would salivate to get.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I don't get it. I wasn't saying that there weren't talented people. I'm just saying I don't see any path for any of those people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You have no faith in the execution, of course. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. You have no faith in the execution. But it's like Paul Heyman saw a number of people he wanted to get behind, stonewalled all along. You can't see it through. You don't think Tony Khan would like to get his hands on some of them people I just named? I mean, come on. It's like, so, but yeah, you can't have any faith in the execution. None whatsoever. So that's the problem, is the core product and the inability to think forward. And that's how you end up with Randy Orton and Big Show. And MVP getting a multi-year deal. Good for MVP.
Yeah, hey.
It's like,
that's a little luck to him, yeah.
He should be a nice addition to a young roster, not a stalwart on a roster where you don't know what you're doing. I don't have any problem with MVP, but it's like part of a bigger issue. So that's Extreme Rules Fallout.
Yeah, leading a newly rebranded Nation of Domination is just, can you imagine pitching that?
Why not come up with something new? I mean, it's like, because that's what they do. They always dig into the past. I've said it before. They're the squirrel crossing the road that gets 75% across, and then they get scared and turn around and go the other way and get hit by the car.
It's so wild about that too, is because and for all that we could say about Pritchard would have he would argue with you to the end of the time in 1996, and Vince in 1996 would have said the same thing in 1986 and 1996 and in whatever other era. This was the company that was always forward thinking, almost to their detriment a lot of times. Of like, nah, that guy's too old. We can't have him on our team anymore. He's too old.
Vince would give up on people too soon.
Right. And then the Attitude Era came and his fucking brain broke and he's just never gotten back. It's just, I guess he's just not about the struggle or the come up or whatever, but like it's not working anymore. Like, the old guy thing is just, it's not doing it. But yeah, it's wild because Vince you were 32 and it's like, pal, we got to figure out how to move you out. You're getting kind of old. And it's like, now it's like, they're completely opposite. They refuse to push new people, and they only go back to, the security blankets that they have, like Randy Orton and Big Show and those sort of guys. So it's just wild given how much of WWE history was them giving up on guys maybe too soon or worrying about guys getting too old, and now it's just like, my God, it's so the opposite, and I don't know, it's wild. I'm with you. The floor, we have not seen the floor yet. Things are going to get much worse coming soon, and I see no immediate turnaround either. I don't know.
I just always remember Dave Meltzer saying when they signed the new TV deals that they're in a position now where literally monkeys can run the company. Just chimpanzees can run the company and make the worst decisions possible. And you could have a literal child running things, and they're safeguarded, and they will be insanely profitable, and it won't matter. And we're actually seeing that play out. We're actually seeing that play out where it's
what feels like a literal chimpanzee. I assume that there's not actually a chimp in the room, but I wouldn't put it past me that Bruce Pritchard has like a chimp in a cage and unleashes him and just throws darts, and they go, yeah, there's my Night Raw, cool, thanks. And then they go drink beers and hang out in Vince's office or whatever. So
it's the worst creative run the company has had since I've been alive, and I've been following this stuff, and we're seeing that exact scenario play out where it really doesn't matter. But will it can it get so low to where it will matter? Where I don't know about USA, but Fox, I don't know, man. It's like, but they do have many years to figure it out. And with the luck that Vince McMahon has, I would not be surprised if they back into the next megastar accidentally, which has often been the case. That's not a conversation for today. I've made that rant many times. And that's what's going to take to get them out of the hole.
Right.
Really,
but I do think, again, on your point, again, and then we could kind of move on here a little bit, but never in this company's history has it been harder for somebody to organically get over either, or for them to fall ass backwards into somebody. They've created a system where that just doesn't become the case. Even if they decided, okay, Montez Ford, we want you to be the biggest star ever, they would have him do some dorky lines backstage. He'd be, you know what I mean? Like, they just can't. It's not conducive to anybody getting over on their own anymore. It just isn't.
Yeah, because when you do, they intentionally sabotage you because they didn't pick you. Well, you're not supposed to get over yet.
Or they have in mind, okay, he's getting over, he's getting hot or whatever. Now let's make him a megastar. And they have this idea of what a, quote, megastar is. Like, Roman Reigns organically got over. And we're not huge Roman Reigns fans or whatever, but like it grew from the Shield, and it organically grew, and he was getting there and getting there and getting there, and then they decided he was going to be The Rock, and he was going to make jokes and make fun of people and it just never worked. He was never a natural in that. He was never a natural talker. He wasn't a natural funny guy, hilarious. But that's a great example of they had a guy that they were basically there with Roman Reigns, and they decided, okay, he's going to be a star, so what he's going to do is he's going to beat everybody, he's going to become unstoppable, and he's going to make fun of everybody because he's The Rock. And it never worked because they don't let guys do it. You know what I mean? They just don't let guys be that because they decide, even if they do become stars, that, we know how to make stars. Okay, pal, here we go. Here's what we're going to do for you. And it never works, ever. It hasn't worked.
Well, I'll bring this full circle for you. We'll go all the way back to December to Dismember, and then we'll close this up and move on to Impact. Okay? A perfect example of what we're talking about. It was either at December to Dismember or at the next TV. I can't remember which. I think it was the pay-per-view, though. And Heyman had pitched putting CM Punk out there to cut a promo or some kind of pre-tape something. And Vince nixed it because he said he didn't want to do that because then the fans are going to chant for CM Punk all night. And then Heyman's response was, well, great.
Perfect.
That means that's great. Like, that means they like him, and that means he's getting over. And that's when Vince snapped at him and said, get it through your fucking head. It's about Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley is the star, and it's about pushing Bobby Lashley. So get with the program or get the fuck out. I'm paraphrasing, but those are almost the exact words as they were written in the book. Okay? So that's a perfect example of that. Getting over organically, they will cut you off if you're not the one they want to get over. And that is a real-world example of it. And this is how it's been for the last 15 years. Like you said, post-Attitude Era. You're not allowed to get over organically anymore because they will not allow it, which sounds insane. Like, no, we don't want people to chant for CM Punk. We don't want him. No, because it all has to be about this guy. Whereas Vince in the past or any other logical pro wrestling promoter or booker, you run with the guy that is getting over. But to them it's bad. And on a smaller scale, you could look at examples like Zack Ryder, who was getting great reactions in buildings on his own, so they booked him like a geek to ensure that it would stop.
Yeah, well, Daniel Bryan.
What sense does it make?
Daniel Bryan worked, but fuck. We were doing shows at the time. He joined the Wyatt family. He lost to Randy Orton. He lost to the Big Show. I mean, it's funny that it's the same people, Randy Orton and Big Show. But I mean, go back to the what was it, 2006 or 2014 or whatever? 4 consecutive pay-per-views or whatever. He gets his ass kicked. He gets punched out by a Big Show. He loses to Randy Orton. He joins the Wyatt family. Like, Batista comes in. Like, they tried like hell to not make the Daniel Bryan thing work, and now they claim it as a success. When in real time, it was not.
They spin the history like they landed a big success. Yeah, like that was all they're doing. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So you're right. That's the other problem. They may not luck into someone because they cut them off. Which is crazy. But that's why they're in the predicament that they're in. So, you reap what you sow, right? Mm-hmm. Is that the proper usage of that turn of phrase?
I think so. Yeah.
That's some biblical shit. Where'd that come from?
You're asking the wrong guy about biblical stuff. So,
isn't that where that phrase came from? Though that's a Bible thing, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the worst show to have Bible discussion on.
Yeah.
Talking to two men that are not very well versed in the Old or the New Testament. None of the Testaments.
Thumping that Bible, huh?
We could tell you all about fucking Don Leo Jonathan in 1984, WWF, but I couldn't tell you.
Don Leo Jonathan, well, obviously not, because you're about 2 decades.
No. I meant John Leo Jonathan, and
showing up in 1984. Yeah. I got you. Being out of date, yeah. But didn't you go to a Catholic college?
I did, yeah. But regardless, it didn't.
They didn't force you to take.
They didn't. No, they didn't. Yeah.
New Testament 101.
No. It wasn't like that sort of college, which is good. So.
Yeah.
I live near a college that's like that. The town I live in now is very religious. like you don't have to if you live in the town, know about it. But the college that we have in our town is like world renowned for like Bible study and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'm good. So yeah. I got I was raised and I did my, but I don't remember any of it. So.
Same here.
The minute I was allowed to leave, the minute my mom was like, "Well, do you still want to go to class?" I was like, no, and I never did. And I haven't been there since. I go on Christmas sometimes to appease my mom, who just wants me to lie and say that I still believe in.
Weddings and funerals.
Yeah, weddings, funerals, and occasionally Christmas is about my attendance. So, there's probably a ball game on, like you said.
Absolutely, yeah. The thing is, I blow off most weddings anyway. I was thinking about this the other day. Do you know, as an adult, and I think that I've been to 2 weddings as an adult. That's a low number, isn't it?
That's remarkable, yeah. I went to 4 in one summer, so that is pretty good.
Yeah. I've 3 counting my own. But, I've been a guest at 2 weddings in my entire life.
That's good. Either everybody hates you or you've done well. So I don't know.
No, the invitation goes right in the trash.
That's good. I like that.
There's 2 things that I get in the mail that go right in the trash, okay? A wedding invitation and jury duty. Those things go right in the trash with a chuckle. The jury duty gets a little chuckle. The wedding invitation, I'll open up and I'll laugh at it because they're always goofy. There's always some dumb picture of the couple, like having some whimsical fun, right? And there's always like some bad pun on it or something.
Oh, they're terrible now. Yeah, with their wedding hashtag on it now too. That's the new revolution. Is like forever, whatever their last name is, or some cutesy little
forever Betsy and Jimmy. Right. No one cares. No one is hashtagging Betsy and Jimmy. Okay, I promise you. No one cares about your wedding except for you. Okay, that's number 1. So keep your dopey hashtag. Number 2, it's always some picture on the other, it's always like a postcard, and then the other side is always a picture.
They're in a prairie. They're in a prairie at sunset or something.
They're both sniffing a daisy, or they're both like some fucking bullshit. And I'm like, Jimmy does not want to be sniffing that daisy. Jimmy is mad because he missed the fucking Bears game that day because you made him go take pictures of sniffing daisies. Okay, he's annoyed already, and he hasn't even married you yet. Okay, that's the other thing about those pictures. You can always feel it in Jimmy's eyes that he doesn't want to be sniffing those daisies, right? And then they have the RSVP. The worst one I ever got, I got a wedding invitation from my cousin, right? And specifically where it said number of guests, it said 0 for me. They weren't even allowing me to bring a date.
You had to go stag on it.
Yeah, it said right on there. It said you are permitted 0 guests.
Wow,
Like,
so they were trying to keep the numbers down, and fucking Joe.
So now I'm like, hold
Joe
on,
can
yeah.
come, but nobody else.
I'm the guy who gets the cut. I don't get to bring I'm someone who gets
Which
caught.
would, oh my dude, can you imagine? That'd be the worst one too, because you're at the Misfits table
Reject
too.
table. Yep.
Yeah, where it's like, Uncle Joe who smells. Not you. There's another Uncle Joe that smells. You, the best man's like girlfriend who was just kind of looking at her phone the entire time. Just a terrible mishmash of people. Yeah. The alcoholics, the drug addicts, the people that are just like the friend of the dad who works at the dad's job or whatever. Just absolute garbage.
The people you have to invite to your wedding because you were invited to theirs.
Exactly.
It's like,
right. Well, Tommy invited me to his daughter's wedding, so I guess I got to invite him to this one. But put him at the reject table. So.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the audacity.
That's some balls. Yeah. I
took pictures of it, sent it to everyone in my family, saying I can't believe the audacity. And my brother made a good point. He's like, well, let's be honest. You wouldn't have went anywhere. I was like, that's a good point, but I'm still insulted. Okay?
I know. We
like
talk
this.
massive shit about every wedding invite we get, and it's like, why do we care? We're like, oh, God, that date, that venue, that place. We're not going to go anyway.
Yeah. Flicked right in the garbage. Same thing with the jury duty summons. I crumble it up and
I'm not so sure about that one, but that's fine.
I do a fadeaway jump shot right into the trash can, chuckling with glee. Rich, I've been doing it for 25 years.
I don't know how you've gotten away with it. Yeah.
It goes right. I've done it for 25 years in 2 different states, right in the garbage every time. Hey, yeah, you don't go to that shit. No need. They don't come after you. Trust me. Believe me. Now, when we don't do the show 1 week because they're hauling me off the jail.
I was going to say, yeah.
Make
sure you don't fuck our taxes up, by the way. So you're good with your taxes, I guess. But.
Taxes theft, number 1. Number 2, I have been skipping jury duty for 25 years. So if they ever do catch up to me, I'm probably in really big trouble.
There's not any fucking cops or federal agents listening to the show. So
I really don't think they come after people for skipping jury. I think that's just a myth. I think it's made up, and I've got the evidence to prove it. You just, I've never so much have gotten a phone call.
Yeah, that's good. It's a terrible experience. There's like some people that like jury duty, and those people are fucking weird, and I don't trust them at all. Like that's the weird. There's nothing fun about it. I've had to do it once. Thank God, I've never had to do it again. It was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. Just sitting in a room for 9 hours. They call you in. I said one thing. They said, "Okay, you're out of here," and I'm like, "Okay." And I went home. Like it was so bad. It was so terrible.
Imagine getting stuck on a jury for like 4 months.
That's what I always, and there was like, I got that tip from somebody as well. They always said, if you ever do jury duty, think about it. Do you really want to be doing like a case for months on end? And no, I don't. I'm really not interested in doing that at all. There's some people that are, more power to them. But they said just like, when they ask you questions, just answer in like the worst way possible. Like you don't have to say like you're racist or whatever, but like, and I took that, like there was like mine was like some DUI, some guy had like hit somebody with a car while he was driving drunk or whatever. And they're like, all right, sir, have you ever consumed alcohol and driven a car? And I'm like, yeah, who hasn't? And they're like, all right, you're out. And like I was gone. Yeah. They immediately were like, no, he's done. I'm like, all right, cool, sweet. Like I'm out.
Yeah.
Like they said, just like find a way without saying like, no, I don't like Mexican, like don't do that. Like that's not a great idea, because then they're gonna be like, well, this guy's kind of an asshole, you might get on a list or whatever. But they said like find something that like that like the defense attorney's gonna be like, oh, not this guy. And that's exactly what it was. They're like, have you ever driven under the influence of alcohol? I'm like, yeah, sure, who hasn't? Like, of course you haven't. They were like, okay, thank you, sir. I'm like, oh, cool, thank you, appreciate it. So.
No, it'd be a nightmare to get stuck on a jury for some long dragged out case. Rich, the bottom line is I just don't care. I just want to go home. I want to watch a game. Speaking of watching games, breaking news, Rich, as we switch topics.
I saw the perfect 2020. If 2020 had to put a cherry on top of fucking everything, yes. What happened in our ball game that we were watching, Joe?
So there's a rain delay.
God damn it.
But I've got breaking news that they're breaking during the rain delay. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's go.
So the MLBPA has agreed to the expanded playoff proposal for Major League Baseball.
Interesting.
So for this year, the playoffs are going from 10 to 16 teams. That's 8 teams per league. Okay, now listen, we got all first place teams, obviously division winners, are going to the playoffs. All second place teams will qualify for the playoffs. And then the 7th and 8th playoff teams in each league will be decided by the best record among the remainder of the teams. So basically more than half of Major League Baseball will be in the playoffs in this very strange 60-game MLB season. Rich Kraetsch, your first impression of this?
Feeling good for my White Sox. I think we're playoff bound this year. So it seems hard to not. It'd be very disappointing for any team that's not in those playoffs. And so obviously this is being done as a concession for the lost playoffs and all that sort of stuff. I do wonder though, and I know, Joe, you're a man who likes, you know, his sports. I don't want to say you don't like. You're adverse to sweeping changes in your sports. Is that correct? Was that a correct assumption?
No, I am averse to sweeping changes. This,
like, you want the best record in the NL versus the best record in the AL
I don't go that far.
No,
I don't go that far.
In a 9-game World Series like the 20s. So
I like the playoffs as they're currently constructed, and I love the winner go home wild card game. I think that's a lot of fun, and I think it's look, you don't want to be in the win and go home scenario. Win your division, okay?
Right? Absolutely.
Then that's how I feel about it. And I think it's exciting and it's good TV.
I will say, though, are they ever going to go back?
Well, this is what I'm going to say. This proposal, I don't mind it for this year because this year is dumb anyway. Do whatever you want this year. I will fucking hate this.
I think you're going to hate it. Why would these franchises say no? We don't want playoff revenue. We didn't deserve it.
Well, the thing about it is the owners are trying to make up the lost revenue for not having any fans this year. So I understand from the perspective, more playoff games equals more revenue, and they're making up some of that lost revenue. Due to the fact that they're not starting until July 23rd and there's no fans. I get it. The problem is I don't want this moving forward. If you want to do it this year, in this wacky year, to make up this lost revenue, to give the fans a little something, I think this will be fun as a one-year thing to have these big playoffs and everyone stays in the race longer, and then you have the big playoffs in October. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I do not want this moving forward.
Yeah, I hate it
go
too. I don't
games.
like it either.
And I think they're doing this gimmicky thing, and this I hate. This I fucking hate even this year. The first place teams get to pick their opponents in the first round.
That's so weird.
and they're doing it as a special on TV. They're going to make a television event out of it. So you get to pick. And that's just, why create that bad blood? It's like, that's schoolyard shit. I have no interest in that. You know what I mean? Like, the team that gets picked is going to be annoyed, and some people might be into that. I think that's not professional sports to me. That's shit you would do in a schoolyard, which is fine. I don't know. It seems...
Yeah, that's going to be so weird. Like the fucking, the Astros being like, yeah, give us the Mariners. And the Mariners are like,
because we think they stink.
Yeah, the Mariners fucking suck, so we'll face them. And it's like, oh, man.
Now, there's some people who might be into that, but I don't get off on that. I think that's not professional sports to me.
It'd be cool if the Mariners win the series, but the Mariners get their shit pushed in by, the Astros. It's just kind of like,
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That part I'm not into. But, I don't. 16 teams is way too many moving forward. But
cool for this year, but yeah, I don't love it moving forward. But
anytime
you add new playoff teams, it's very difficult to take them away. In past history of sports, very rarely does a franchise go, you know what? Nah, we don't really want that playoff revenue. Take us out of the playoffs again. So
you're right. You're right. But the difference here is this is not part of a collective bargaining.
Right. It's just a 1-year gimmick thing or whatever. So that's cool. I'm down for it this year. This year's a fucking chaos anyway. Who cares? The Marlins might win the World Series. Anybody can win the World Series this year. And that's what I say. Like, legit, when we talk about, like, the season, like, I'm going to watch as many games as I possibly can. Like, usually in an MLB season, I know you're every inning, Reds game, you're going to watch every single. I'm like a little bit more casual in that sense. We're all, watch. But I'm going to watch as much as I can, man, because every game is going to, like, matter a lot. And what you do in the first 30 games of the year are, like, fucking vital.
Well, they kind of, I'll tell you what. They kind of just mitigated that.
They kind of did. Yeah, you're right. Now I can just kind of chill because I assume that.
Because if your team's really good, okay, it's like more than half the league. There's 30 teams, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's 5. Yeah, there's
30 teams, yeah.
6 divisions of 5. So it's like 16. There's, more than half the league is making the playoffs. So it's like, all right, if you get off to a 17-4 start, Rich, you're going to the playoffs. You may not win the division, but what are the odds you're going to fall back to where you don't have at least the 8th best record in the league? So from that perspective, adding all of these teams to the playoffs kind of cuts into the idea that every game is super important and super vital. But what it does do is it keeps more teams alive.
Right. The entire season you're saying, I'm watching a playoff team. I'm watching a team that could win the World Series, as opposed to a lot of times in baseball, after the first week when you're fucking 4-15, it's like, or, after the first month you're 4-15, it's like, my team sucks. We're not going anywhere. So.
Right. But if you're 4-15 this year, you might only be 6 games back of that 8th spot.
Right. Exactly.
So you're still in. So it hurts the top, but it helps the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
So from an interest standpoint, so I kind of, is that a good trade-off? I mean, you want to keep as many people as interested as deep into the season as possible, while also kind of bastardizing your playoffs. See, the thing is, it's such a weird season. I really don't care what if they would have told me all 30 teams are making the playoffs and
right, every game is the playoffs. I would have said whatever. Right. Who cares? Yeah,
these 60 games are seeding, and we're just doing a 30. I wouldn't have cared about that either. It's fucking weird, man. So. It does. What it does help too are the good teams that get off to a bad start. Like if you're the Dodgers and you get off to a 8-11 start, you're not panicking. You got plenty of time to. You only got to finish top 8. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I actually bet that like people are going to probably think that it's like the lower teams, the not good teams that have kind of called for this. And I bet it was some of your big market teams that look at look, dude, no, we can't. Like the Dodgers and the Yankees, if they start out slow, they're fucked and they're done. Like usually those teams by war of attrition at the end of the year, 162, they'll find their way in the playoffs or whatever. But like this year, it's like, yeah, no, the Dodgers could miss the playoffs because they have a bad 2 weeks, or Kershaw's hurt, or Mookie Betts misses, gets COVID and he has to miss 2 weeks or whatever, and that'll fucking sink you. So I'm sure it's those big market teams that are saying, hey, no, we're paying like $150,000, $1 million, for these teams or whatever. We're paying $200 million payroll. Like, no, we want to find a way to, get into whatever this postseason is going to be. Whereas, your lower market teams are probably like, hey, fuck it. Well, we could go to the Marlins are might thinking, hey, maybe we'll get the playoffs this year. Who the hell knows? Whatever. But yeah, I definitely, would think that it's the major market teams that are looking at that and going, ugh, we need to find a way to make sure that we make the playoffs because, it's so weird. It's such a strange year. My OCD is going to hate this. Like going back and looking at this year.
Oh, like the old back of the baseball.
Yeah,
card.
like the numbers are going to be a mess. The records are going to be a mess. Like, you got
1981 with the 81 games.
Yeah, season. That's true.
Like that one kind of, but that's so far in the rear view now that it's like. But every now and then you're looking at a baseball reference page and you'll be like, how did this guy lead the league in home? Oh, right, that was the game. That year they
Why did this guy only have 6 home runs? Oh, right. Yeah, he only played. Yeah, damn it.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, it's just gonna be a strange year. But
the Reds had the best record in baseball that year and didn't make the playoffs.
Oh, because they weren't like the first half winners or whatever.
They didn't win either half because remember they split the season in 2 halves.
Right.
And I wonder what they would have done if a team would have won the division in both halves.
Yeah, I think there was a story about that, but I forget what it was. But yeah, it was kind of like I think that team just won or something. It was some weird thing where the solution was terrible, if I remember correctly, and I was like, thank God that didn't happen. That would have been no good.
Yeah, they really lucked out with that, where it worked out clean. And they had what became the first division series. That was the first ever division series, and then it went away for 15 years or whatever it was. So I think it came back in, 96 or somewhere in that neighborhood. But maybe a little later. But
95,
anyway,
I believe, 95.
It's a lot of baseball talk for people.
This is a lot, yeah. It's an exhausting amount of baseball talk, but we're
it's
excited.
Can we get a break?
Exactly, right. We haven't talked baseball. We were supposed to be talking baseball 3 months ago. We haven't been able to talk about it. We're talking about it now, so.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, man. I think we're not alone as well. Last baseball thing, looking at local ratings, people are fucking dying for sports. And that's, again, to kind of circle back to the WWE discussion, I don't think we've seen the worst out of them because I am telling you, I'll be glad to be wrong, but dude, I am looking at fucking scrimmages on NBA TV and the ratings that they're getting. It's literally like guys fucking around in a court with no fans in Disney World, and the ratings are exploding. Yeah. The fucking White Sox are playing inter-squad games and the ratings are ridiculously high. People are starving for sports.
Yeah, it's going to hurt Wednesdays too, for sure, especially when the NBA playoffs start.
Yeah, for sure.
It's that Cubs White Sox fucking preseason game or whatever they're calling them. I mean, didn't it do better numbers than all of the White Sox regular season games last year, something like that?
It was all the best White Sox games over the last 10 years or something. Basically, it outrated all of them.
For a game that didn't count,
right?
And the White Sox and Cubs are going to play each other for real. What is it? 6 times or
yeah.
6 times, right? One in each.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's 6. Yeah.
Don't you play the other league 6 and you play your own? Whatever it is.
I forget, dude. I don't understand the schedule at all, so I'm just going to kind of sit back and enjoy it.
So, I mean, yeah, this is, Wednesdays are – there's going to be some Wednesdays with NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, a full slate of baseball games. I mean, what the fuck? And, if there's any college football on top of it.
Yeah. I'm going to have a tough time watching wrestling, to be honest.
Oh, let me tell you something.
I'm so excited for sports.
No, Reds games come first. That has always been the case. Wrestling takes a back seat to Reds. I mean, I watch every inning. I watch every inning live. I'm not putting that. And I'm fired up. I'm excited about tomorrow. I can't wait to get into it. But what do we got next here? Impact Wrestling?
Impact Wrestling Slammiversary. That was Saturday. Impact Wrestling Slammiversary pay-per-view. We have a review up on the website as well. If you did not watch the show, we'll talk about it here a bit. But Andrew Sinclair, I think, did a really, really good job, as he always does, with the pay-per-view review there. But a very eventful Slammiversary show. And Joe, dare I say, and I don't know your thoughts on Slammiversary. You and I have not talked about it yet. I'm not quite sure. But dare I say, I thought this was a really good show. Not necessarily like a show of the year contender on that level, but I thought this was like the prototypical Rich Kraetsch special, where like legit 6 out of the 7 matches or whatever numbers there are. There's one match that, oh boy, we'll talk about that one, that definitely did not meet the criteria, but I think every other match on the show at least got to some level of interest. Plus you add in all the debuts and the resets and all that sort of stuff. I thought this is a tremendous show. Like I didn't feel like I wasted a second of my 3 hours. Well, again, one match that I feel I definitely wasted my time. However long that match was. The 47 minutes of that one match that we'll talk about definitely felt like I wasted my time. But for the most part, I should say, I thought a 2 thumbs up pay-per-view from Impact. Really enjoyed it.
I mean, first of all, we have a rich history of great Impact reviewers. You ever stop and think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, people don't give us enough credit for that.
I think, I mean, between Garrett Kidney, obviously, and Andrew Sinclair, who does a great job. The Dylan Hales era. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Great Impact reviews. And there was people in between that I'm forgetting.
Yeah, well, Chris Novembrino did an Impact review podcast for a while that was fucking awesome. Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, and then he switched over to the Lucha Underground podcast. And then when that went away, obviously he joined Shake Them Ropes, which is still doing tremendous. Without that dastardly Rob McCarran.
He sunk that whole show.
He pops in once a year to show his head. But we just have a really good history of Impact reviewers. And it's the only weekly TV show we do a written review for to this day. Isn't that crazy? Who would have thought? 8 years later. Am I forgetting something and someone's going to be mad at me?
No. I mean, otherwise weekly TV, yeah, no one's watching Raw. No one's reviewing Raw. I won't let them. I've had people say, hey, I'll review Raw. And I go, no, because you're going to leave the website. I don't want you to leave. Because the body count for Raw reviews is legendary. So I do not let people review Raw. Nobody reviews SmackDown. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, no, the Impact is it.
I feel like because the reviewers have been so good that it's just always a show that we have had written reviews for, even when the show has been terrible. And obviously at periods of time in their history, they've been outright terrible. There was that one reviewer, Garrett Kidney of all people, got so upset that he stopped his review in the middle of the show. Remember that?
Yes.
And it's like, I can't.
Josh Matthews, that's when Josh Matthews is doing like some heel commentator thing.
Yeah.
And he just said, this is it. I hate this company. I might never watch it again. And of course he watched it again, a day later or whatever.
Right. But he stopped the review dead in the middle.
Yeah.
And we put it up. I mean, the way I saw it, he got frustrated, and to me that was the review. I mean, the review was, this show is so bad that the most dedicated Impact fan on the planet, honestly, couldn't get through the show, and that's why we posted it. But Andrew Sinclair does a great job too. He's on top of it. He knows the company inside and out. I mean, we just have always had good Impact teams. But Slammiversary ruled. I really enjoyed the fuck out of this, and I thought, on the weekend, the last couple big shows from all the companies, this was the best one. I thought this was better than Dominion. I thought it was better than the New Japan Cup Final. I thought it was better than Extreme Rules. Pound for pound, bell to bell. And, the only match I did not like was the Gauntlet, which was fucking horrendous. And, the worst match on any of these big shows over the last couple weekends. But outside of the Gauntlet, I thought everything was solid as fuck. knocking on the door of the notebook for just about every match.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a show that I think, I'm firing up my ratings right now. I think I went like 3.5 to 4 stars on literally everything on this show except for the Gauntlet. Like it was kind of a joke to me. I'm like, 3.5 stars. Like it was just everything was solid. Like nothing. I wouldn't say any match was spectacular. I don't know if any match is like, oh my god, go out of your way to check this out. But when you talk about a top to bottom, turn on the TV and just enjoy the show, just turn it on and watch it for 3 hours, save for one match. I think everything else was like perfectly acceptable, perfectly good, well booked, well worked, interesting pro wrestling, and that's very difficult to ask for, especially in the empty arena era. That you're going to get that, but yeah, I thought really tremendous show. Like again, it seems weird to call it like a show of the year contender because there wasn't like any spectacular, what I would consider top tier spectacular type matches. But when you put it in totality, like yeah, I love a show. I'll take a show like this over a show that has 2 really great matches and a bunch of shit. I'll take a show that's got 6 out of 7 matches are all solid as fuck, which is what we had.
We used to call this the Craig Special.
Yeah. Where
every match is solid, right? You may not get, there may not be a match of the year contender, and there's not. This reminds me of some of those old Dragon Gate shows that used to air on Ustream. And they would all just up and down, they'd be all 3.25, 3.5 star matches. And those, we used to call them the Craig Specials back in those days because you would always go on and on about how that's your preferred show. You'd rather have that than a show that might have a match of the year contender or 2 and then a bunch of utter shit or stuff that's forgettable. It's much better to just have a straight, enjoyable 3 hours of a bunch of stuff that's just super solid. I agree. That's what this was.
Yeah, let's talk about the show. We'll start at the beginning, I think, and then we'll kind of work the new additions and the debuts and all that sort of stuff as we go, because I think that's an important part of this. And we'll talk about Impact this week a little bit as well, because it was another huge episode of them kind of resetting their company.
Did you watch Impact, Rich?
I saw most of it. I didn't see all of it, but I saw most of it. So
how about that? Craig is watching Impact for like the last 3 weeks.
It's a good show, man. I don't know if I talked about it on the show last week. I forget, but it's like, it's a solid wrestling show. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. It's maybe at times boring, but even its boringness is like fine. You know what I mean? It's like completely, it doesn't, I don't know the right way to do it. Like, I'm not ashamed to watch it. I don't feel like I wasted time. Everything's solid. Everything makes sense. Everything feels like it's building in a direction. Yeah, there's some stuff I don't love, but I don't know. Like, all of it, all in all, I think Impact's a really, really good television show right now.
I have a friend who I trust a lot because we share a lot of similar tastes in wrestling. And, I try to watch everything, but you just can't watch everything. So he's my guy. He will text me he will say, blow off Impact this week, or make sure you watch MLW, or, like all these shows that might not be in my regular rotation. He's the one who guides me. And I can tell you that for like the past 6 weeks, he's been saying, watch Impact. It was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's usually my barometer. So I've been watching it too. I watched the run up. I always watch the run up to the pay-per-views. I think that's important. If I'm not regularly watching a show, I will watch the run up to the pay-per-views, and I will watch the show after the pay-per-view, which is why I watched Raw this week. But yeah, this week's Impact was, a really solid. I did, like you're saying, I don't feel like I wasted my 2 hours at all when I watched Impact this week. It was enjoyable. The commercial breaks on Impact are like 17 minutes long. Am I the only one that notices that?
Oh, yeah, they're really strange. How
long
like they are.
Longest commercials, too. It's like, it's Holly Robinson Pete and Rodney Pete pushing like a weight loss supplement for 17 minutes. That's like every commercial break on Impact. It's just the weirdest shit. I know all about Rodney Pete's weight loss program. I lost 17 pounds.
I usually skip through it really quickly. But.
It's like, and they play that commercial like every other break, but they have the weirdest commercial breaks. But anyway, let's.
They send us a screener that doesn't have the commercials on it.
Oh no, yeah,
watch
I know
that version.
That's a good point. I know that you and Sinclair, you guys watch the screener, right?
We do, yeah.
It's, I know it's there, but it's just a habit. I watch the DVR because I watch this shit in the middle of the night, and I watched it on the DVR. But that's a good point. The screener, how long are they on the screener?
They're literally 10 seconds, yeah.
No. I mean, how long are the Impact shows on the screener?
Probably like an hour and they're like an hour and 10, hour and 15, I think usually.
Yeah.
They come in right around there, maybe hour 20 or so.
Yeah. Yeah, I always forget that they said that's a good point. But the thing is that I have to watch it on the laptop. I struggle with wrestling on my laptop. How are you with the laptop?
Hit or miss. I like to put it on the big TV.
I pay attention more if it's on the TV.
If it's on the laptop, I'm fucking around on my phone. I'm doing something else. I click another window. It's in the back window. You know what I mean? Like, it's never,
That's what kills it for me because, okay, the phone is always a distraction. But the thing about it is, if I'm watching wrestling on my laptop, I am too tempted to click another window during a down moment. And then I stay on that window, and then I'm like, oh, shit, I missed half this match. I cannot pay attention on the laptop. I have such an easier time. What the fuck? Why do I have a gigantic fucking 70-inch TV in my living room if I'm not going to use it?
Right.
It's just easier to pay attention on the TV. I don't know. Is that a boomer thing? Are we old?
We're probably old, but that's fine. People huddle over their phones and watch stuff all the time too, so that's. I guess I don't know. Yeah, I'm a couch TV guy. You know what I mean? I'm definitely
fuck yeah, absolutely. All right, so this pay-per-view. You want to go?
Yeah, let's go ahead. So we'll talk about the opener here because this actually is our first of the kind of re-debuts or appearances or whatever as the Motor City Machine Guns re-debut in the company. Of course, Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, they come back and they were, as we predicted, the guest opponents for the Rascals, which is the right call.
As you predicted.
Well, I guess. Well, you kind of agreed as well that would probably be the right call.
I think everyone kind of knew. Right?
Yeah, I'd love to take credit for that, but I don't think I can take credit for that one. But yeah, no, the Motor City Machine Guns come back. They defeat the Rascals, which again, I did see some people saying like, I don't know, but it's like, dude, it's a Motor City Machine Guns. Like, I have no issue with that.
Who the hell was against that?
Well, I just mean people saying that like, oh, you know, the young guys get lost, but it's Wentz and Xavier. They're fine. It's the Motor City Machine Guns. Like, yeah, I have no time for that.
Come on, are Shelley and Sabin 60? I mean, what's the problem here? They're a hot act coming back to the company, and these aren't even the two Rascals that they're pushing. They're pushing the other guy. That was
right, exactly. Yeah, Trey's the guy getting pushed to the bigger extent. So yeah, they can't. You got to have those guys are okay if they lose a few times here and there. Not a big deal.
That's not gonna give me a break. That's the perfect team that can have a good match with them and also eat a loss. So whoever was making that argument, you know, they're an absolute dope.
I like this match a lot. I went just under 4 stars. I went 3 and 3/4. No argument if somebody went 4 stars. Shelley and Sabin are just like, dude, Shelley hasn't been wrestling in a year or whatever. Sabin's, you know, here and there sometimes. These guys are fucking perfect. Again, you know, they come out of the gates. And it's like 2007 again. They're just all over the place, bouncing back and forth. Timing's perfect. The Rascals are great. Like, what a tremendous opener this was.
It's like these guys wrestled Apollo 55 like last week. You know, and those matches were like 2009 or something. You know, they haven't teamed in forever. You know, Sabin hasn't wrestled period in forever. He's coming off a major injury. These guys are like 40 years old. I just put them over for not being old, but they're like 40 years old, right? Or around that age, late 30s. And it's like their chemistry and their work was like they were teaming last week. Like they were wrestling Apollo 55 in Japan last year. It's so good. They didn't lose a step. They had no chemistry issues. So, yeah, this was so much fun to watch. And then they won the tag team titles on Tuesday night a couple days later and ended the long run of the North, which, again, I didn't have a problem with. And that was a pretty good match, too. But I feel like they're a hot act, and I feel like with the fresh coat of paint that the company has right now, it wasn't the worst call. The North held those titles over a year, and they had a great run, you know? But I think this was the right team and the right call to beat them. This is a better call than doing it with the Good Brothers, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you're guaranteed with those guys you're going to get great matches. And that's, you know, that's always been those guys' hooks. And even in the old days of TNA or whatever, that was always the guys' hooks. And they're just like, even though they are a, quote, old team, they feel very fresh. They feel very new. And they feel, in some ways, a positive of the history of Impact and the history of TNA or whatever. Nobody reflects poorly on the Motor City Machine Guns. Nobody goes, oh my God, those guys. Oh, you brought back those guys. I mean, everybody kind of understands that those guys ruled. They were great. Maybe didn't get enough credit for what they did, and now they can come back again and have another run with the titles. And then you see, it's not like they lost anything in transit either. It's not like, oh, they're giving those guys the titles even though they don't deserve it. You watch these matches, you know, against the Rascals in the North, it's like, hey, these guys are fucking great. They're tremendous pro wrestlers, of course. No problem with them winning the titles.
They're instantly one of the best tag teams in the world already, and they've had 2 matches back.
Yeah,
that's how good they've looked. So yeah, very much into this, and a big part of sort of this fresh coat of paint we're going to keep talking about I'm going to say fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, get ready for that. We're going to say
Everyone's
reset and fresh coat of paint a lot of times. But they did. It was both of those, for sure.
There's going to be a subtweet from you-know-who saying, stop saying fresh coat of paint sometime this week. You know it, right? Stop saying fresh coat of paint. But I'm going to keep saying fresh coat of paint.
TNA World Heavyweight Championship, Moose defending the title against Tommy Dreamer in an old-school rules match. Moose gets the win here. Just a solid, not great pro wrestling match, but a solid bell-to-bell pro wrestling match. Tommy Dreamer making Moose look like as good as he could possibly make Moose look. I thought Moose was okay in this match. It's not a tremendous match. It's not a match you need to go out of your way to see, but I thought it was solid enough. I went about, I think I was 2 3/4 on this one, just under 3 stars. But yeah, a solid match, and they didn't overstay their welcome either, which was good.
I didn't have any problem with it. I saw people saying that this was like an abomination and this horrible match.
Nah.
I didn't think this was a horrible match. This was just a match. This was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And, I'll never think about it again, but it was fine. It was totally inoffensive. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was a 2020 Tommy Dreamer match. What'd you think you were getting?
Right, he's going to talk you in the building, and then when the bell rings, it's like you got enough there for him. But yeah, I think he did a good job of making Moose look solid, and that's the goal was to make Moose look like a killer, and I think Dreamer did a good job.
It could have been a lot worse, and Moose did some nice moonsaults and shit. It wasn't that bad.
Okay. This match just ended 10 minutes ago, Joe. Gauntlet for the gold to determine the number 1 contender for the Impact Knockouts Championship. We had Kylie Ray, Taya Valkyrie, Alicia Edwards, Havoc, Kira Hogan, Katie Forbes, Kimberly Nevea, which is heaven spelled backwards, by the way, Madison Rayne, Rosemary, Susie, Tasha Steeles, and then Johnny Bravo, who entered twice, because it's impossible for any pro wrestling company to not have a man dressed as a woman at some point in a like if it's a Rumble, if it's a women's something, you gotta have a dude dressed as a woman, and they decided to do it twice in one show as Johnny Bravo came out both as Taya Valkyrie and as Rosemary. This, Joe, not too good. 19 minutes and 20 seconds. I can't believe it was only 19 minutes. That's got to be a lie. Wikipedia has to be wrong. Easily 77 minutes of my life wasted on this match. So
I'm going to bury the fuck out of this, but first I'm looking at this. I don't think they're doing the gimmick where the division winners pick their opponent. It says first round will be 4 3-game series played at the higher seeds home stadium.
Okay.
And then rest of the rounds will be normal length, 5-game series LDS, 7-game series in World Series. Okay, so I guess
that's a little better. Yeah, that's a little better than the Yankees laughing at the Mariners as they select them to.
I think they scrapped that because that was the plan, but it says first round. Basically, the wild card round is now 4 3-game series, all played at the higher seeds home stadium.
Okay.
Now, home stadium doesn't mean anything except batting last because there's no fans, obviously. But you do get the bat last. So, and then after that, it's just regular playoffs because then at that point you just have your LDS. Okay, I
like that better. Yeah, I like that a lot better. Well,
I'm more optimistic. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I didn't like was picking your opponent. I think that's Bush League. But since they're not doing that, yeah, all right, this is kind of cool. Yeah, I don't mind it. 3-game series, that's dangerous for these division winners. But anyway, the Impact. What are we talking about?
Gauntlet for the gold. Yeah, Gauntlet for the gold. Knockouts,
okay.
Rumble thing.
So who thinks the man dressed as a woman is funny? Now,
Don Callis.
When I ask you that question, I'm asking in all sincerity, and I want to know, is there a circle of fans that we just aren't privy to who are posting GIFs of John E. Bravo dressed as Taya Valkyrie getting thrown out of the match, and they're like laughing, and they think it's funny, and it's getting a lot of likes? Does it even exist? Are there people?
Yeah, I wonder, like the Santina, like in the Rumble, it's like, oh my god, it's Santino dressed as a woman. Oh my god. I've never met that person, but maybe, I don't know, maybe on Reddit or something. But yeah, not anybody that I know, thankfully.
Let's put the transphobic elements aside, because it's like from the first time we saw Santina to now, society has changed, right, for the better. And it's like we consider that stuff transphobic, and it's just and it's crass. And for those reasons alone, you don't really want to do like the Santino thing. This, was more Taya Valkyrie trying to avoid entering the match early, so she sent her minion in there dressed as her. That was the gag.
Yeah, which I
But
didn't
it's
mind.
like-
I didn't mind the first time he came out. It made all the sense in the world, and it was Taya sort of having this guy on her. You know, she's got the power in this quote unquote relationship, or whatever. Bravo just does whatever she bullies him, and she said, "Yeah, just go out there instead of me. Perfect, thank you." So I didn't hate that one as much.
See, I did, and I still think it's stupid. But what I want to know is who thinks it's funny. Like, because it's supposed to get laughs.
Right.
Who is laughing at it? Like, who was watching that pay-per-view, like, slapping their knee, having a hearty laugh at it? Because it's just not funny. And I don't even think this is a no-fun Lanza situation, because there's some things that are no-fun Lanza where I understand why other people might find it amusing, right? Like Breeze Dango, who I pick on every Thursday on the Thursday TV reviews, because I hate it.
I think we're past the point of anybody. There's nobody that could laugh at them coming out as Mounties, right? We got to be past that point. We have to be past that point.
Then maybe they're a bad example, but there's got to be examples of stuff that I don't think is funny. Like DDT comedy. Is that a good one?
Yeah, because you are definitely no fun lands on those, and I think they're pretty funny. But
the inflatable panda and all that bullshit. Like, I don't think it's funny. I think it's stupid. I don't want to waste my time on it. But I understand why other people find it funny. This gimmick with men dressed as women in battle royals, I genuinely don't understand why any human being would think this is funny unless you're like 8 years old. Maybe a child would think it's funny. Like, I'm asking in all sincerity. Who's laughing at this? Why do they think adults are going to enjoy this? It's very bad. But Rich, outside of the Johnny Bravo spots, because then he came out dressed as Rosemary, the match was still an abomination. It was horrendous. Just a terrible excuse for a gauntlet-style battle royal. Easily the worst thing on the show. And are you still there, by the way?
I am. Yeah, I'm just
nervous because of last week.
Last week had some issues. I am still here. Yes, don't worry.
And if I had to rate this, it'd be an absolute, an easy dud, maybe negative stars.
Yeah, just nothing good. Everything was clunky. Katie Forbes is legitimately one of the worst wrestlers I've ever seen in my life. I mean, we know why she's there, but it's just like, dear God, she's horrendous. Nobody was good. Nobody knew what was going on. Everybody was bumping into each other. It's like they had no plan. I don't know what the hell the plan was here or what this was, but nothing. There's literally nothing of this match. 19 minutes and 20 seconds. There's not one redeemable factor of this entire thing. Kylie Ray won, by the way. So there you go. She's the number one contender.
Yeah, and it's like that's how Kylie Ray, someone who they're pushing, gets their big push off to a terrible start. In this horrendous match. But this was the low point of the show, and really the only thing on the show that wasn't good.
Yeah, for sure. So we can move away from that and go to a match that I really enjoyed. Impact X Division Championship match. Willie Mack defending the title against Chris Bay. Chris Bay wins the title. His big moment. He's been an Impact fan like his entire life, so it's a really cool kind of connection there. But I thought this was a tremendous match. These guys going back and forth a lot. Again, not a match of the year level, not like an incredible match, but like a nice, solid 10-minute well-told story match where guys, they went out there and they busted their ass, and Chris Bay, who realizes this is probably the biggest, moment of his, early career, his young career, whatever, goes out there and just works his ass off and gets the win here. But I thought Willie Mack was just as good. Really, really good stuff from both these guys.
I think Willie Mack's the Impact fan, the lifelong Impact.
No, Chris Bay was too. People had a video that they were tweeting out of him unboxing. He bought an Impact like custom belt when he was like 12 years old or whatever. It's actually an X Division title. Have you seen this? It's really cool.
No, I didn't.
It's like Chris Bay. He's like 12 or 13, but like he's very young, so it's like on YouTube or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that generation has like their moments on YouTube. Like when I was 12, it was fucking nothing. Thank God, it wasn't on anything.
No, you had an 18-pound camcorder on your father's shoulder.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I had like I remember I recorded a Survivor Series reaction show on like a cassette deck, like the Montreal Screwjob. I wish I had it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's pretty great. I have no idea. I'm sure I've taped over it or whatever, but it'd be great to listen to because I don't know anything. Like I'm not smart, so I'm like, yeah, Bret Hart got really upset about something. Like I don't know what's wrong with Bret Hart.
Hold on. How did I never notice? You got to upload that.
Yeah, I wish I'll have to check my parents' house next time I go over to see if I have that. But I would do that for a while. I did a lot of pay-per-view stuff, so maybe I have a few of them. So
wait, so you recorded yourself on a camcorder?
No, they were like, so it was like a tape deck that had a recorder on it.
Oh, this is audio.
Yeah, so it's cassette. It's just a cassette.
I need to hear these.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing what they sound like.
Need to hear these.
I'm sure I recorded like the top 40 hits of the time over it, but maybe not. I'll have to see if I can find one.
No, I need to hear your takes on Midian.
Right, Naked Midian and stuff. I do remember vividly though my Survivor Series being like, man, Bret Hart was really upset about the loss. Like he's breaking stuff. Like no idea about the screw job. No idea. I was like, the finish was really weird, and Bret Hart wasn't on Raw the next night, so I don't know what's going on. I was like very confused at what's going on there. But,
yeah.
But good stuff. Getting hot takes from day one though, from day one of the fandom. Getting those hot takes. But
don't they push Willie Mack as a lifelong Impact?
They do,
fan
yeah. I told you, like, when they were talking about Ultimate X, they asked all the wrestlers, they asked, like, Trey and the Rascals, do you know the Ultimate X rules? And they're like, no, I don't know the Ultimate... Or the King of the Mountain. It was the King of the Mountain. It was during their, like, a Hard to Kill pay-per-view or whatever. And they're like, King of the Mountain? No, I don't know, what the fuck? And they're describing the King of the Mountain. And then they asked Willie Mack, hey, Willie, do you know the King of the Mountain rules? And he's like, yeah, so what happens is you're in the penalty box, and he gets it perfect. Like, he fucking nails it. And they're like, how'd you know that? And he's like, I watched Impact all the time. Like, I love Impact. So it was kind of like a weird, like, kind of half burial where most of the roster is like, I don't know anything about this. But they did I'll have to find the video for you. Chris Bay is unboxing an Impact or a TNA X Division Championship. And he's like, whoa, look at it. It's like an authentic. And it's just like, it's like a 12-year-old kid who's, collecting title belts, talking about this X Division title belt that he just bought. And it's really cool. It's a nice little connection there. I'll see if I can find it. So,
yeah. But yeah, Chris Bay, I mean, he's a guy who, the first time I saw him a few years ago, I think he's a West Coast guy, right? A West Coast indie guy. He's from... No, I think this says he's from Virginia. Didn't he break through with some of those West Coast groups? Like, I want to say he's wrestled for like APW and places like that out in California. Because that was my first exposure to him. And, it's very obvious that he's super talented. I know AEW was interested in him for a while, but Impact swooped in and got him, which I think it's healthy when promotions like Impact and MLW manage to get some of these guys. Like MLW just said, they're saying they re-signed Fatu, to a 5-year deal, which I think is good. I mean, who knows how much that deal, it's an MLW deal, so who knows how much validity there is. But, I think it's why am I forgetting his name? Their champion.
MLW's champion?
Yeah. Thomas Kid.
Oh, yeah. What's his fucking name? I'm blanking on it too.
You can't blank when I blank.
Jacob Fatu.
I got it right. Yeah, so it's like, Impact gets Chris Bay, and MLW seems to have, locked in on Jacob Fatu. I think that's good for the scene. I don't think it's good that WWE and AEW hoard everyone. We saw what happened when WWE hoarded everybody over the last few years. It's not good for anyone. But yeah, Chris Bay looked great here. And then I don't know if you saw the next night on Impact or 2 nights later on Impact, 3 nights later on Impact. He beat Willie Mack again.
Yeah.
And
I love that. I love that. That's a perfect way to book.
Yeah. And it was definitive. And the announcers, the commentators put over that. They even put over the idea that he's putting Willie Mack in his rear view. None of this trading wins and bullshit finishes. No, he beat him clean twice. And he's the new X Division champion. And he's moving on to whatever he's going to move on to. But the thing about it is Willie Mack put out a really weird cryptic tweet. Did you see that?
I did, yeah. I was wondering if I thought that at Slammiversary too when he lost. I was like, it kind of seems like that's the end of Willie Mack in Impact, and those didn't really change my mind either, though.
No, he put out a tweet basically saying that it was strongly worded that it made it seem like he's moving on, which is a shame because he's great. I thought he was so good at Slammiversary, and he's always good, but I thought he was even better than usual at Slammiversary, Mac in particular, But Chris Bay, man, he could be part of Impact's future. He's part of this fresh coat of paint, Rich, that they're putting on the company, and he's got a ton of potential.
So then we have other matches here. The North, Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, of course, we mentioned that on Impact. They lost the titles. Here they successfully defended them against Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan, a team that you cannot believe is an actual team in 2020. And I thought you had a tweet that nailed exactly what I wanted to say when I was watching this match. It's perfect that the North works how the Revival or FTR or whatever. FTR and the Revival are, we're old school Southern style wrestling. And they talk a big game, but they don't fucking work that way. They say they work that way. They don't work that way. The North works that way. Every little edge that they can get, it felt like I was watching, 1980s, NWA tag team wrestling with the North here on this night. They were every little cheating move they can do, every little thing, every little fake tag, every little corner thing they can do, any little ref distraction, like cutting off the ring, all that sort of stuff was like boom, 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 boom. Because these are not like Ethan Page, especially, is not a guy who's going to blow you away in the ring. Josh Alexander can, but Ethan Page knows what he's good at and utilizes that well. And I thought this was one of the best matches the North have had as tag team champions because it was just like they're in there with Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan, and they controlled that match, man. They made that match their match. And they dominated everything, and they made it look, it was just a perfect Southern-style match. And I thought you hit the nail on the head there by saying they work how the Revival says that they work. Even though Revival doesn't, they're not about, they say it all, they talk a big game, but they actually don't change their style in any way, shape, or form. They're basically just another tag team on the scene or whatever. Whereas the Northman, it was such a throwback on this match. I thought this was really, really good.
Yeah, it's like the Revival used to work like that, but they haven't in AEW. They have totally conformed to the AEW house style, which is a house style that I don't even dislike, but it's not what the Revival said that they were going to do when they got there. They said they were going to bring their style of tag team wrestling and force teams to work their way, and we see a dichotomy of style, and it hasn't been that. They've totally conformed. And the North have been what FTR claims to be. Absolutely. And, Shamrock and Callihan, as predicted, didn't really get along towards the end of the match, but not in like an overbearing, annoying way. It was more like Shamrock rolling his eyes at Callihan, like, what the fuck are you doing, man? So their unlikely pairing didn't work out, but they're going in a different direction with the tag team titles anyway with Motor City Machine Guns. And, maybe they'll be in a longer feud with the North. I can't imagine the North wouldn't get another shot at the titles after holding them so long. So maybe those two teams will have a long feud, which I won't mind at all. Their match on Impact wasn't great, but it was good. The title change.
Yeah, no, I liked it. Yeah, they're usually like I for whatever reason the North. I love the North because they're like the floor with the North is fantastic. Like they never have like what I would consider a truly bad match, but at the same time they never really have matches that I consider like, oh my god, you got to go out of your way to check out this match. But they've been solid as fuck. And the Slammiversary match I thought was maybe their best match that they've had as a tag team because it's just like the way that they're working, the style, like you said, the perfect, just perfectly just being heels, and it's just it's so nice to see that still in some way, shape, or form does exist. In pro wrestling.
People might not remember, but they go back a decade to when they were Monster Mafia. Mm-hmm. This has been a tag team in your neck of the woods for a long time. Didn't they work a lot of Chicago area shows?
AEW, all the time. Dreamwave, everywhere.
I think even ROH briefly.
So I'm in ROH for sure.
So, this is not just a team that came, this is just a name change and sort of a slight gimmick change to where, the whole proud Canadian kind of deal that they do. But, they've been teaming a long time, probably about a decade at this point. So they got a lot of continuity together, and it's good to see Josh Alexander back, of course, after it looked like his career might be over. And you're right about Ethan Page. When he's in the right scenario, he can be very good. And this tag team is just perfect for him. There's other times where he kind of loses the plot, and I've got my issues with him that, this isn't the right show for, because we don't really have the time. But this tag team is perfect for him, and Impact has a nice tag team situation now, adding Motor City Machine Guns and the Good Brothers to the mix.
Absolutely. Move on now to the Impact Knockouts Championship match here. Deonna Purrazzo defeats Jordynne Grace to win the title. I thought a really, really good, great finish. I would say the finish itself was awesome because they didn't get too cute with it. Purrazzo just put her in the submission, locked it in, and Jordynne Grace didn't sit in the submission for a bunch. She didn't get to the ropes, and they went back to it. She just tapped out. She realized, I'm fucked. I'm done. taps out, gives up. But I thought really good work by both women. A lot of good back and forth, and I was surprised they kept my attention all 15 minutes. And I thought, yeah, I definitely a thumbs up match here, and definitely worthy of being the semi-main event because the build has been really, really good for it too. Even with having to do some Zoom calls and some Zoom build or whatever, they did a good job at that. Even though they did like a stereotypical like contract signing, they put a different twist on a lot of the the tropey stories that were told, but I think it's a nice simple story. Jordan Grace is the incumbent champion. Deonna Purrazzo's the hot new, she jumps into the company and says, I want that title right away, and then she proves it right away. Proves it right off the bat by submission, no nonsense, no frills, and yeah, they didn't overthink this. They just went with what I thought was the right call with Deonna Purrazzo winning it. So
yeah, they put a lot of effort into the build, and this was the match of the night on a show with a lot of really good matches. So that's not even faint praise. Look, this was stiff. This was nasty. This was aggressive. The work was solid as fuck. And this was fought like a championship match where there was a grudge. And there was a grudge coming into this, and they wrestled it that way. So they wrestled to the story and then basically beat the living shit out of each other for 15 minutes. This was a great championship match, no book material, and I really liked it. So this is, Deonna Purrazzo. We've had our jokes, and she showed some guts and wanted to leave WWE and wanted to prove herself, and this is a great start.
Absolutely. I'm really encouraged. Really encouraged by what I saw with her, and her character is solid. She gets her character. She understands it. It's no nonsense. It's no frills. And then, like I said, to just do the submission in the middle of the ring and not get too cute with it. She locks it in. It's like kind of a double arm lock or whatever. Jordan Grace has nowhere to go. They didn't fight it. They didn't wait a bunch. She just rears back, and Jordan Grace just said, "I'm out. I tap out." It was solid. And like you said, stiff as fuck. Like, especially in an empty arena, you could hear it. I mean, they worked harder. They worked more stiff and more hard than like anybody else on the show, and that's including fucking Ken Shamrock and Ethan Page and Josh Alexander. Like, they were laying it in on this match, man. God, it was really, really good. Yeah, a match that very not what you're going to see even on WWE. I think it was way more stiff than any women's match you'll see ever in WWE.
No, listen, WWE has had some good women's matches lately, even if I haven't loved the finishes or have flat out hated the finishes, but a different style. I mean, This was a different style of match. This was almost like grapple fuck, almost, in a lot of ways. This was it's just intense, and you bought that these people didn't like each other, mm-hmm. and that there were stakes involved, and yeah, I enjoyed the shit out of this. I thought it was the match of the night.
Then we'll go to our main event here. It's a 5-way elimination match for the vacant Impact World Championship, and this had a lot of twists and turns on it. So we knew Eddie Edwards, we knew Ace Austin, we knew Trey, we didn't know the fourth man. The fourth man comes out, and it's Rich Swann, who we saw earlier in the day. He's got crutches, but no, he doesn't. He's fine. He's going to join the match. And it was a little bit of a letdown because you're thinking, geez, like I thought they were going to have some sort of surprise here or whatever. But then it comes out that, no, they do have a surprise. It is Eric Young who returns to Impact Wrestling and is the fifth man, so he adds himself to this match. A little clunky. I didn't really love how they got there. It was a little like, all right, I guess Eric, especially because earlier in the night, Heath Slater, who we forgot to mention, runs into the ring, cuts a promo about, I'm here, I'm Heath, I'm taking over or whatever. And they do a backstage thing where Scott D'Amore's like, hey, you can't be here, not an employee or whatever. So he gets out of here. But then Eric Young just like adds himself to the, 5-way match at the end, even though it was only supposed to be a 4-way match. A little clunky, the storyline there, but yeah, I don't know. All in all, the match itself, I liked Purrazzo and Grace a lot more than this match. I thought this was good, but there was a lot of two guys in the ring while whoever was eliminated or whoever hadn't been eliminated was outside of the ring. To one point where I thought, I really honestly thought that like Ace Austin had been eliminated, and then realized, oh no, he's not eliminated. He just has been sitting outside the ring for 10 minutes while Trey and Eddie Edwards or Trey and Rich Swann have a match or whatever. So that part kind of annoyed me a little bit, as it seemed like a lot of your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn type stuff. And I didn't love the inclusion of Eric Young, but I mean, all in all, Eddie Edwards wins the match, wins the vacant world championship. I think the right call for Eddie Edwards. And all told, I thought a pretty good match, but just like I had a little bit higher expectations going in than what we really got.
Sounds like I liked it more than you. I thought it was a really good, especially for, a big multi-man thing. I like the inclusion of Eric Young because I think, Eric Young it's kind of like we talked about last week. If this would have been oh my God, it's Matt Cardona or it's Heath. Those guys are just jobbers from another company. And even though Eric Young was a jobber in that company, in Impact, he has a history. So I don't have a problem with bringing in Eric Young and putting him right at the top of the card because he's a former Impact World Champion, and he had a critically acclaimed run with the Impact World title. He did some of the best work of his career during that time, and he's an Impact guy. He doesn't have that WWE stink because I still associate Eric Young with Impact.
Yeah, I kind of forgot. Legit, there was many times in the last year that I completely forgot that he was a part of that roster. I remember one time he came out, I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's Eric Young. Like, yeah, it was not a good run for him there. So I really didn't mind his inclusion, and I don't mind him going right to the top because in that universe, in the Impact canon, he is a top guy, and he's a guy who was there forever. So that I didn't mind. And I guess you could tell the story that they wanted him back and they didn't want Heath. Heath just kind of found his way in there, and they have no connection to Heath. Whereas Eric Young called and said, "Hey, I'm available," and they said, "Oh, great, come."
Right, and the whole Heath thing is his whole storyline is, "What are you doing here? You don't work for us," and him trying to backdoor his way in. They even followed up on that on Impact on the TV.
Right.
So that's kind of his deal. Where with Eric Young, it's like, oh, Eric Young is back. He's a former Impact World champion.
Of course we're going to bring Eric Young back. Yeah, I guess. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I guess I don't hate it nearly as much now. So,
and his work was really good too, and he's always been underrated as a wrestler. But it's like he didn't miss a step either. Working once a month in WWE, and he's not a spring chicken. He's got to be 40 years old.
And I don't want this to be that show because we're kind of running out of time. We still have to talk about New Japan. But did you read his interviews that he had as well? It's yet another example of all these people that think, oh, these guys, they have they're not, they feel like they should all be the world champion, all main event WrestleMania, and none of the guys say that. It's all the same thing. It's never Eric Young saying, yeah, I should have beat, Roman Reigns and won that. It's him just being like, I just wanted like a little bit of input into what I did. I just wanted to enjoy wrestling again. I just wanted to feel like I belonged. I just wanted to feel like I meant something to them. I didn't want to main event WrestleMania. I knew I didn't belong. I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to have some insights, and it's like they crush the spirit. Same thing with Moxley. It's like they just fucking crush spirits at that company.
Mike Bennett, another one. I just want to wrestle.
Yeah, Mike Bennett's like, I'll just go to main event, man. I don't care. 205 Live, I don't care. Just let me wrestle. Like,
pre-COVID, he was like, just put me on the road. I want to wrestle. We've been talking about it for years. These guys just want something to do. They want to feel like they matter in some way. It's not that they all want to get mega pushes. And that was the exact sentiment from Eric Young. He just wanted something to do. He wanted to feel valued, like any of us do at our jobs. It's crazy. But, it was an elimination match. And, a lot of people felt Ace Austin should have won. I disagree. I think it's too soon for Ace Austin. But I think that he's definitely a guy who, if they can keep him around, is a future world champion potential guy. I mean, he's still very new, but it's very clear he has a very high upside. He can talk. He can work. He's athletic. He has a presence. But he's a guy I would continue to develop. I think Eddie Edwards was the safe play here. Who knows what the original plans were when Elgin was around and whoever else was supposed to be in this match, Tessa. But it's like Eddie Edwards is a safe play. He's a solid, and now he's an Impact guy. Like, you feel like he's an Impact guy now because he's been there so long. And the one thing I'd like to see him ditch the fucking jeans. That was a storyline.
Yeah, the look is, he's still got like the hardcore legend, I'm feuding with Tommy Dreamer look. Like, let's look like a wrestler again, man.
Go get your fucking tights back and look like a pro wrestler. And, that's an old storyline that he's, the gear is bad, but he's a good wrestler and he was the safe play. And it really feeds into the whole fresh coat of paint that the company has. Your Elgins are gone, at least for now. Your Tessas are gone. Your fucking Jake. Was it Jake or Dave who's the bad one?
I don't remember. I think Dave, but dude, a gun to my head. If you told me which is this, Jake or Dave Chris, I'd die.
Yeah, but I mean, one's married to Nevaeh and wasn't involved in any of the speaking out stuff, so I don't want to.
I feel bad. Yeah, let's find out which one was official. I think it was Dave, but let me make sure. So
the bad Chris is gone. I'll just leave it at that for now.
Dave Chris is the bad one. So
yeah, so it's like Eddie Edwards, solid as fuck in every way, solid professional. I think that was the right play. There's plenty of time to go to Ace Austin if you need to. Eddie Edwards just represents stability, and they're bringing in a bunch of new faces. We talked about the Machine Guns. We talked about Heath. He's just going by Heath. He said on the TV, they won't let me use my last name, so I'm just Heath. Eric Young is back. The Good Brothers made their debut at the tail end of the show.
Yeah, the tail end of the show, man, was boom, 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 boom. So Eddie Edwards wins the match. The Good Brothers come out, and then they cut to black, and then you get the EC3 debut as well. So it was like, here's all these new guys coming in.
It's become a hack thing, but I'm pretty sure I said it first. But he looks like Kurgan. Doesn't he look like Kurgan?
Oh, he does. 100%. Yeah, Kurgan the Interrogator. Yeah, for sure.
Like, everyone's saying it now, but like when I said it, it didn't become hack yet. But he looks like fucking Kurgan now. It's crazy. Apparently Brian Myers is around.
Yeah. Face the facts, baby. Brian Myers debuted on Impact this week, so.
Oh, he did. I watched.
It was a quick little dude. It was like 3 seconds. You probably missed it. It's like him in a mask that says M. I don't like. I know it's Brian Myers. I don't know if on the TV they explicitly said that's Brian Myers. It was like a video and there was a man wearing an M mask and it was clear that it was Brian Myers.
Okay,
if that makes sense. So you probably skipped over it. You might have hit the DVR and went right past it and not even noticed it. But yes. Time to face the facts, baby. Hey, look, like people are gonna laugh because they're like cast-offs or whatever, but those are guys. The Motor City Machine Guns, important to Impact history. And nobody's going to complain about them. Heath is, we'll see. It remains to be seen. The story.
You know what? People like him. He's over with fans.
I agree. And this story is I like what they're doing with the story so far. Eric Young, again, jobber in WWE and nothing in WWE, but he's an important part of that universe, the Impact universe, and he's going to work his ass off. Fucking Gallows and Anderson is a huge get for Impact. No matter what you think of those guys.
No matter what I think, they're a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get those guys, you get them. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
And then EC3, like, again, in that universe, he's a bigger deal. And I still think there's some lost potential with him. I don't know if I love this look. I don't really know if I like this gimmick, but I'll remain to be seen about that. And Brian Myers is just, roster fodder at that point. Like, I don't know that.
Yeah, he doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, I've never been.
But they're not going to, if they push him, if he wins the title, then we can talk shit about that. But I think he's just, like, dude on roster, basically. So
other than ironically into Face the Facts. I've never
really. Right. So.
But no, it's good. Look, it's good that a promotion gets a big influx of talent like this, and they delivered on the tease. That's the big thing. They teased for months that they were going to bring all these guys in, and Rich, then they did.
Yeah, right. It wasn't like they just brought, they brought one guy back and nothing happened. They brought like a whole new crop of guys in, which is cool.
Yeah, so it wasn't like some bait and switch, or they just brought in one guy. So, I think that's important to note too. That fucking. To deliver on the promise like that and actually bring some new people in. But it's just funny how Impact, how many, and then you throw in Tasha Steelz, Chris Bay, whoever else, Deonna Purrazzo. Impact has hired like, a dozen people during COVID?
Right.
But there's still people who would tell you WWE needed to fire.
They had to, Joe. God, COVID, they had to let guys go. They had to let those office guys go. Those assholes in the office just had to be let go.
Yep. Yeah. AEW, they hire Ricky Starks. They give a contract to some of the guys that are working dark. They're trying to work out a deal with Eddie Kingston. WWE, they had to fire people.
They had to. Yeah, but they're going to work on a new contract for MVP, though, so don't worry.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
But I do like this too about Impact, that they might be cycling some people in and out or whatever. It makes it fresh. Like, that's how all wrestling should be. Is that if Willie Mack's done for now or whatever, even though I love Willie Mack, it's like, hey, cool, we're going to put Willie Mack on the shelf. We'll bring in these guys. Maybe Willie Mack comes back. Maybe Ken Shamrock takes 2 months off or whatever. Maybe Sam McCallum is not. Like, I love that idea that like there's now 5 or 6 new guys and some guys might go away, some guys might come back. That's how pro wrestling should be. Is bring new guys in. Old guys go out, maybe you cycle them back and forth or whatever. Just having a stagnant roster that never moves is just never good for wrestling. So I'm glad.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on to New Japan here for the last half hour or so of the show. So we got Sengoku Lord in Nagoya. That's coming up this weekend. A pretty interesting show here. We touched on it a little bit a few weeks ago, but let's get into the big matches and talk a little bit about those. Right off the top, Evil defending the double titles, the heavyweight and the Intercontinental Championship, against Hiromu Takahashi. Joe, does Hiromu do it? Does he shock the world?
I wanted to push New Japan to the last topic because I am just all eviled out. I am so tired of evil discussion and evil conversation because it's become teams. You're either pro-evil or you're anti-evil, and there's like no in between, and it's become nasty, and I'm just not interested in it anymore. It's like You can't be an evil agnostic. You can't be an evil centrist, which is what I really am. I mean, when we talked about it at length when we led off the show with it a couple of weeks ago, I don't know how evil's going to turn out, and I just don't have a good feel for it. I mean, I know that I'm not a big fan of the way he's been working and the way I suspect he's going to work under Bullet Club, but it's like, if you're not all about this evil thing, then you're sort of casted as this anti-evil person, and I'm just honestly tired of talking.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've said it from the
beginning.
beginning. I want to be wrong, but yeah, we're getting a lot of people that are just like, "Oh,
It's
you
an ugly
think he
conversation.
sucks, and you don't like, we like different things in wrestling." And I'm like, I maybe he's good. I don't know. Like, I just don't love it so far.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, this match is going to play a big part of it. But watching that New Japan Roadshow from this week, I'm not super, enthused about it. And like you said, it feels very like camped, and that now people are fighting, and we're logging, grenades back and forth at one another. And it's like, I just want to see how it plays out, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, I watched the Corkin show, and I mean, evil just is not jumping off the page for me. And I am not certain that this is meant to be an elevation for him. We're going to find out very quickly.
Yeah.
Because I think that he might be – people use the term transitional champion a lot, and they misuse it. But if Okada beats Yujiro and then challenges Evil, he's probably going to beat him. And if he does, that's the prime definition of transitional champion, because that'll mean what they did was they wanted to get the title from Naito to Okada without Okada beating Naito. So that makes Evil Stan Stasiak. He's probably the best historical example of a transitional champion. That makes Evil. Can you think of a more modern one, Rich, that I can't off the top of my head?
More modern transitional championship. A lot of those have been gone. I mean, Bob Backlund was a famous one in '94.
Backlund's a good one, and Iron Sheik from Backlund to Hogan.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So there's 3 good examples from 3 different eras of transitional champions, and if Evil loses to Okada, that's exactly what he is in this scenario. And it doesn't represent an elevation into the upper tier of New Japan main eventers. Now, it will always give him that credibility of being a former IWGP champion. And that does matter, because then he's a guy that you can always put in title matches with the thought of, oh, well, he's a former champion, so there's a chance he can win. And that's always a strength to fall back on. But he could just be a transitional champ to avoid blowing the Okada-Naito money match to get the title to Okada. Or this could be a legitimate attempt at an elevation. I don't know yet. All I know is watching the New Japan Cup final, watching the title change, and watching Korakuen Hall, he is not jumping off the page to me as a guy who is coming across as a star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those 3 matches don't. I mean, I'm still keeping an open mind, and Hiromu's going to be, I think, a great opponent to find out what we really have in this and what we're, up against with this. But yeah, I have not been encouraged by the 3 matches I've seen, and that's not, me making a grandstanding Evil's not gonna work and what a terrible champion. But I'm watching these matches, and I'm just I don't. Again, it's hard with the crowds, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of energy around his matches. It's not like the people are really stomping or clamping a ton for the baby faces. We'll see with Hiromu. I mean, Hiromu is the best case. If the crowd is just as hot as they can possibly be, within reason, of course, without being able to get. But if they're clapping and stomping and going nuts for Hiromu Takahashi the entire time, and he's really playing up, the Evil's heel run, and the crowd seems like they're, against Evil a little bit more when he's doing heel stuff, like, we're there. But, like, yeah, the Korakuen did not give me. I mean, there was. People can say, oh, they can't make noise or they can't do this, but I'm watching that Korakuen show, and there's a lot of energy when Kota Ibushi's out there. There's a lot of energy when there's other heels out there. There's a lot of energy when, Yoshinobu Kanemaru's doing bullshit stuff, and you can hear the crowd noticeably getting annoyed, and when Yujiro's doing stuff, the crowd noticeably getting annoyed, and Evil comes out, man, and it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't, I don't know, it's just palpable, like, lack of buzz. I can't describe it.
There is a palpable energy drop. I mean, I know people think I'm nuts, but I don't know. But again, it's hard to tell. That's the other thing. I hate these New Japan. Like, I am so not looking forward to this Sengoku Lord, because it's so weird that the fans aren't allowed to, like, do anything. And it's almost weird to say, but I almost prefer empty arena. I almost prefer it. I might prefer it. It's just,
yeah, they don't feel like they're any asset to the show whatsoever if they can't make any noise or do anything.
I don't know. Look, it's hard to make these judgments on the guy when we don't get real fan reactions.
Sure.
And that's really all I have to say. I'm so tired of talking about Evil. The thing about it is I don't have high expectations for the match because I don't see why all of a sudden that the Evil heel template is going to change in this match. He wrestled every match in New Japan Cup. The title change, the same. I'm going to be waiting 30 minutes for a Dick Togo spot and a Dick Stomp. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking forward to that. If they blow away my expectations, great. I want them to. I don't like to watch matches I don't like. And Hiromu's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And Evil can be a good wrestler. Just not this current incarnation of Evil. I hate this match structure. So I am setting my expectations low and hoping to be blown away.
You think in your heart of hearts Evil wins this match, right?
No, if Hiromu wins, it's one of the biggest booking mistakes of the last 20
I'm with you.
years.
Yeah, it makes no sense. That's something you build for crowds. That's something you have plenty of time to build for. Gato would make no sense whatsoever. I'd question if Gato's still even in charge of booking. Like, it'd be one of those weird things that we'd be talking about forever because it's just completely the opposite of what they booked. Like, and like you said, it's just not a good idea on any level whatsoever. I mean, you have so much time to do stuff with Hiromu. Why now? Why at this moment? Why, with so little build? With no fans, with it's just or not, really fans that can do a whole lot. It's just, yeah, it'd be wild, absolutely wild.
Nobody is gonna like what I'm about to say, but how many times have I said that over the years? Evil should beat him clean in the middle with zero nonsense whatsoever. He's a junior, number one.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So you can get away with it.
Yeah, the
Number
second
two,
that Dick Togo bullshit's going to happen, I'm going to roll my eyes because it's like Evil shouldn't need this. Like in actuality, if given it the way they booked, he shouldn't need this. He should be able to beat Hiromu, which sucks.
Not only should he not need it, I think it'll help him because Hiromu is beloved.
You're right.
Beat him clean in the middle with no interference and establish Evil as, okay, this is a guy who doesn't need that stuff, but he chooses to use it. And you beat a beloved figure, and it adds heat.
Well, and that's where the heat really should come in with these interferences, and that's what made the original Bullet Club work so well. Is it's like Devitt, who was good, really good for years and years and years. It's like, why does this guy need to cheat now? Like, what the fuck? Like, he can win if he wants to, and he knew he could. He would say that too. I think he's in the promos. He'd say, I could win, but I decided to take the cheap route. So I'd bet like probably come in there and beat the fuck out of you. And you're absolutely right. Like the idea that Evil could be good and Evil could beat people, but he just chooses to use a bunch of bullshit anyway. That's where your real heat comes in, as opposed to just sitting and waiting for interference to come. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I know.
I think you should beat him clean, but it's like that's not the way they do things. I don't think it's going to happen. But anyway, I don't know. Let's move on. I just don't want to talk about Evil anymore.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. But I'm excited about the match itself, just because there is a lot that's going into it, and I'm very curious. But one match that I think we can all universally agree we're looking forward to here: Shingo Takagi, El Desperado, openweight championship match. Shingo 100% winning this match. But they're going to give Desperado a lot in this, and these guys are going to just go tear the house down. So I cannot wait.
It's the only match I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to it a lot because I love Despy, and obviously I'm a huge Shingo guy. So yeah, it should be great. I mean, I just can't wait. I think it'll be the best match on the show because I don't think they're going to be able to help themselves in the main event. The main event should be the best match.
Yeah,
but it's
right.
I don't think they're going to be able to help themselves. And it's just some things in wrestling you like and some things you don't like, and I just don't like what Evil is right now. I just don't find Evil interesting. That's the other thing too. Like maybe it would help if I found it interesting.
Yeah, if you were super invested in the LIJ breakup or whatnot, but you've always been kind of agnostic to the LIJ things. So
yeah, so that doesn't help either. But Shingo and Despy, I'm looking forward to that big time.
All right, then we have Okada versus Yujiro.
So the interest here is in the booking. It's like
Yujiro's going to beat him, right? Come on.
Yeah, well,
no chance in hell. So.
I some of the videos I've been watching on World where Yujiro's been screwing Okada a lot. Like you go all the way back to the AJ Styles title loss with Yujiro screwing Okada.
I remember that was one of our first "We're Angry at New Japan" episodes we ever did. I remember.
Yeah, I didn't like that they did that for the title match. It really bothered me. But obviously Okada's going to win. But then, does he challenge Evil? Now, he gave some sort of interview or something this week where he said that he isn't interested.
Yeah, it was Tokyo Sports, for what it's worth, which of course they do a lot of angles through Tokyo Sports. I forget the exact context of what it was, but it was essentially that I'm not interested right now, and that he thought that the titles kind of lost a little bit when they became the double titles.
Yes, but the fact that Tokyo Sports does angles or helps with angles adds credence to the idea that he's not going to challenge, because he's doing his storyline through the magazine, right? So he's saying he's not interested in the double title because his whole gimmick, even in the build-up to Dome, was that he is not interested in the Intercontinental. And I hate that these guys, him, Naito, keep saying that. That is so counterproductive. You should never have a champion or a top-level guy saying they don't care about any of your titles. It is so the wrong thing to do, because fans are going to listen to guys like Naito and Okada, and then they're not going to care about the title. I hate that they do this. It really bothers me, and I think it's counterproductive. I mean, guys like Okada and Naito should be saying that the Never title is something that they would love to have. You should be putting these titles over, not doing the opposite. It drives me nuts when these guys do this, but maybe that's a tip-off that Okada is not going to be involved in this sort of LIJ war, and we are going to go right back to Evil, because if you don't go to Okada, then I guess you got to go right back to Evil Naito, right?
Yeah, right.
Where else do you go? Well, maybe he faces Sonata. Doesn't make sense. He just beat him. Is he going to go through all of them or just go right back to Naito? Point is, I think they're going to keep it with, the LIJ within LIJ for now. But then what does that mean for Okada?
Right, I guess he can go through the G1 and he does that sort of run again. It's whatever happens at the end of Evil and Hiromu. I'm so excited to see how that match ends, and then who comes out and what comes out after that. If it's Okada comes out, it's like, okay, now we kind of know where this is going, and now we know that, geez, this was only to do. But if he doesn't come out, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for everybody. I mean, I would prefer he just comes out and beats the fucking Evil, and you know what I mean? I'm fine with that. But I am very interested to see what the next step is then if Okada doesn't come out, and it's Evil versus, like you said, whoever, or they go back to Evil versus Naito, or it's Evil versus Sonata, or whatever. I'm fascinated. Yeah, I guess Okada goes to the G1 or something like that. Is he staying away from the double titles? I don't know. Yeah.
What about immediately? Because the G1 isn't for a while.
Right.
It's like, does it open up the possibility that Yujiro could win?
Yeah, do we get Pants Okada as he's kind of trying to find himself again? I don't.
Nah, I mean,
Yujiro's so.
He's so below him that I can't.
You know what I mean? He's so.
Now, here's the thing. What about the Jay White tease?
That for me is definitely if you tell me that Jay White's going to come through the crowd, fucking give this kid the switchblade, leave him out laying in the middle of the ring, and Yujiro's going to go and cover him.
You can do that. Yeah.
Perfectly fine with that, because it builds. I know that it's Okada versus Jay White. That's a fine feud. It's a good way to keep Okada away from that title for a bit. He gets revenge over Jay White losing to this slumlord Yujiro or whatever. Yujiro could brag about the win for a while. There's a lot you can do with that. So I would be totally fine with that if that's the scenario it goes in.
And there's people who think you can't get into Japan, but there is a small list of countries where you can travel from those countries to Japan. And then you have to quarantine. I don't know all the ins and outs, but there is scenarios where you can get into Japan. And he did tease it. Now, it could have just been Jay White fucking with people, and I think that's the more likely scenario. But you could have Okada even beat Yujiro and then have Jay White attack, and then you have Okada and Jay White occupied while LIJ occupies the top of the card with the title stuff. So keep an open mind on that. It's not impossible that Jay White pops up. But I think that it was more than likely just a tease, because if you want to do that as a big surprise, you don't tip people off. So I kind of think he's just fucking with people. But we'll see.
All right, some other matches on the show as well. Let's get to the next one here. This is a multi-man tag. We talked about this one. It's Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kota Ibushi, Yuji Nagata, Tenzan, and Master Wato versus Suzuki Gun Team, Minoru Suzuki, Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., Kanemaru, and Dookie. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
What do you want? I mean, there's nothing else interesting on the rest of the card, honestly. I don't know. People were really into Master Wato, I think somewhat ironically. The Tanahashi Ibushi stuff with, I don't know. What do you want me to say? I'm trying. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The only thing, is what singles matches and what tag matches come out of this. Like, I think they're building towards Nagata and Suzuki.
Oh, for sure. That slap battle at Korakuen, yeah, that's for sure happening.
And then maybe I want to get a Master Wato versus Kanemaru match. I don't, that would be a fun singles match, but they typically, I know his debut, he faced Tokai, but that's a debut. Otherwise, they typically don't like to do singles matches on undercards unless they're for titles. So, but under these circumstances with the limited roster, maybe you do. I would love to see Master Wato versus Kanemaru.
Yeah, I think he needs a good singles performance as well, too, to kind of establish him as a new guy, too. So I think if you are going to break from that tradition a little bit, especially in these times, like I think Wato versus Kanemaru is a great way to do it.
And, you also have to do something with the junior tag belts. I know Sho is still walking around with it, but you're going to have to vacate them. Because Yo's going to be out a year or 9 months or, around the
It's going to be long enough where, don't just make those titles. Because then nobody's going to give a shit about those titles ever again if they just float around on guys that aren't defending them. So
you're going to have to break off some of these juniors. And right now, these cards can use a little juice. I mean, they could use those junior tag titles. So maybe something that Sengoku Lord leads into whatever they're going to do with those titles, which I guess leads us into our next match.
Absolutely. Our next match here is Yoshihashi, Hiroki Goto, and Sho versus LIJ team of Naito, Sanada, and Bushi.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just a 6-man tag, but I guess, you try to look inside and see if they're going to come up with something out of this. I don't know. I feel like Naito isn't going to end up in a singles feud with someone like Goto or anything like that. The other guys are beneath him, so it's like this just
feels like a holding pattern. Yeah, it feels like a holding pattern match. Yeah. And then once the night's over, it's going to make all the sense in the world what the next step is for Naito. And,
correct.
And this is just kind of
is just getting guys on the card.
Exactly. Right.
I really don't see a match forming out of this.
Then we have another multi-man match here. We got Makabe, Hanma, Kojima, and Taguchi versus Ishii, Toriano, Yotsuji, and Gabriel Kidd. So one thing I really was caught surprised here, no Tenzan on this match. It is Kojima on his own with, of course, Great Bash Heel and Ryusuke Taguchi versus, as I said, Ishii, Toriano, Yotsuji, and Gabriel Kidd. So,
well, Tenzan has kind of befriended Master Wato, right?
Yes.
So that's why he's in the other match.
Right, exactly.
So that's kind of a little...
Which, that's fucking fine, dude. You guys go have fun, man. I want Kojima by himself, man. Please.
Yeah, I know. From that perspective, and also, I just think it's kind of funny that Tenzan and Wato are like these fast friends. That's like it's like a cute little side story.
Yeah.
Why would these guys be pals? But Tenzan has taken him under his wing. But yeah, Kojima on his own, if that's the plan. The only thing that gives me pause is Tenkoji just had a couple tag matches.
Right.
I mean, they just won 2 tag matches. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels like another one of these situations where it's getting guys, work. It's a New Japan undercard 8-man tag, man. What am I supposed to say?
Yeah, for sure. And then the opener, which I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully Ishimori brings it here. Taiji Ishimori versus Yua Uemura, who I fucking love.
Yeah, you love that guy, and we talked about it a little last week. Ishimori dogs it sometimes in these spots. He's not a guy who always goes all out in these kind of matches, so we'll see. Hopefully he does. I mean, honestly, it could be like the second or third best match on the show.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
But
see how that goes.
Lord.
Yeah,
what's the date on that? That's on.
So that is July 25th. July 25th is the day of that show. So, and then we want to talk about this real quick. Before we get out of here, the Lions Break Collision. Episode 4 is a big one for the Lions Break Collision. So the last few episodes have been kind of 30 minutes, 1 match, 2 matches, very condensed type shows. This one coming up this week, which is going to be on Friday, correct? They release them on Friday. I forget if it's afternoon or morning they release them, but by the way, if you have not been watching these, we talked about them last week. Great 1 hour, a great half hour of television. This one I think might be stretched to at least an hour or whatever. Really good, solid television. A lot of hard work going on in those shows. Like, really good stuff. So if you're skipping over them, like, I would really, really recommend checking them out. And if you're going to jump into anyone, I mean, episode 4 is a great way to start because it is a really good looking card on paper. You got Rocky Romero and Russ Taylor versus TJP and Clark Connors. Mysterioso versus Danny Limelight. Tom Lawler versus Alex Coughlin. And then the main event, which I am really looking forward to, a nice little story that they built over the first 3 episodes of Lions Break. Carl Fredericks, the Lone Wolf, versus Jeff Cobb. And these dudes are just throwing suplexes at each other. Carl Fredericks is calling his shot. Jeff Cobb is ready for him to prove it. Just a solid, no bullshit, one guy wants to prove he's better than the other guy type of story, and that's the stuff that we absolutely love, man.
Did they combine two of these into one big show? Because it's normally been 2 matches.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I have no idea. There's no way this is a half-hour show, though, right? It's got to be an hour or 90 minutes.
No,
or
this one
like
will be closer. This one will be closer to an hour, maybe a little over, because some of them are usually like 35, 40 minutes with the 2 matches. But and I wonder if there's anything taped after this, because I've been very careful with spoilers, because I genuinely enjoy watching it. It's a lot of fun, and they've been very good. And the Fredericks Cobb match has been very well built. But I'm wondering, I hope it keeps going. I hope they did tape more and we keep moving forward with it. But I feel like they combined 2 episodes into one, which is fine. Yeah, Fredericks Cobb. I'm curious how they booked that. I mean, it would seem. Do you feel like Fredericks can beat Cobb? I mean, on one hand,
that's exactly what I was going to ask. Is like, do you get the balls to say, you know what, fuck it, Carl Fredericks, beat him? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I would still assume that Cobb does it, but if I'm them, I wonder if I have the balls to say, you know what, let's go with this guy. Let's have him do it. Let's have him shock, the world and shock Jeff Cobb or whatever. I don't think there's a ton to lose if you do that. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't surprise me, but neither result would surprise me, which is why I'm so into the match. And I know the results are out there, but I'm not.
I've stayed away as well, which is cool. I enjoy that. So.
Yeah, and Lawler looked good in his debut against Rocky. Rocky is he's such a company guy. Like, we all know he's office, but he's been doing jobs on this show and putting people over.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He loves it, man. Yeah, he understands it.
And he can work with anyone. He's another one, very similar to TJP in that he can really work with anyone, and he's just such a good wrestler. But I hope this keeps going. It's kind of like you have New Japan on both shores at the same time, and these aren't throwaway shows. They're telling little stories and everything. So, and Mysterioso, I mean, he's another one, and it's like, I think he's a heavyweight. Like, I don't even think that guy is he's thick. Have you noticed how big that guy is?
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because they have him in the mask, and they're kind of like a lucha guy, but he's a big fella. So.
Yeah, and he's looked good in the indie guys that they've used. I was concerned that they'd be kind of beneath the New Japan standard, but they haven't been. I mean, some of the names are a little cringy, but all of them can work, and they've all looked good, especially that Rust Taylor, who people say has been kicking around for years. I wasn't super familiar with him, though. I'm told he's an old-school PWG guy, which I don't remember him at all.
Yeah, I don't remember him ever.
But he's looked really good, and the one guy I haven't liked that much is the guy who uses the initials in his name, who does the karate gimmick. I haven't liked him all that much, but Limelight has looked okay in the, I think he wrestled TJP last week. Yeah, these shows are a blast. I really hope this isn't it. So I hope they announce something tomorrow too. Even the format's a lot of fun. Kevin Kelly from his den setting us up.
Yeah,
and then cool. And they usually give you a little promo. It was Jeff Cobb last week or the week before, saying how he can't wait to get his hands on Fredericks. But, Fredericks doing this lone wolf gimmick, says he's not going to join any units, which is interesting. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to that. That's become a Friday staple for me, and I really hope this isn't it.
For sure, yeah, really, really good stuff from those guys. So, yeah, enjoy the Lions Break Collision, and yeah, plenty of New Japan back up. So it's
a good setup for Sengoku Lord. It's you got New Japan all weekend long.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a weekend where there's really not a lot of other shows going on. I mean, what's happening this weekend? WWE and Impact just did their shit, and AEW has nothing. This is a New Japan weekend. We're probably going to lead off with New Japan next week.
Sure, for sure.
Sengoku Lord. So this is where you really. You sit down on the couch and you really dig into New Japan this weekend.
Absolutely. So really, really good stuff there with both of those guys, or both those shows, I should say. So that's it. We're just about out of time here on the Flagship. Again, I do want to let you know, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling. The people listening live, you guys know about that. You're $10 subscribers, so we thank you very much. But if you'd like to listen to the Flagship live, $10 tier does that for you. I'm also going to do a Q&A a calling Q&A this weekend as well. Probably Saturday, probably in the morning. So be on the lookout for an official announcement about that when I can kind of figure out what we're going to do. But I haven't done a call in a while due to some other circumstances, and I was kind of worried about the stream the last few weeks, but it seems like things are good. So we are going to do a call in again. $5 tier unlocks the TV reviews, which again, you just did one right before we got on the air here, talking about AEW and NXT ratings breakdowns. And again, another very interesting week of ratings breakdowns. So you definitely want to check that out. Also gets all of our retro content, November to Remember. I just recently finished the In Your House series, looking at the first 19 In Your House main events. I'm going back and I asked the folks on Patreon what they wanted, and we're going to finish up the Boys of Summer series, where I go through the remaining SummerSlam main events, starting with, I believe, 2007 or 2008. I forget which one is where I left off. So we're going to jump onto those as well and kind of work our way through SummerSlam main events, but plenty of other stuff on there. You get our archives as well, Death's Door, as I said, November to Remember, the Fall Brawl recall, all this sort of stuff that we've been doing, the Kings of the Tokyo Dome series, all those many times. Also the deep dive. We have a really cool deep dive planned to come in the next few days here, or the next week, I should say. Hopefully looking at the J-Crown Championship, a pretty famous tournament and famous championship in Japanese wrestling history. So we'll talk about some matches, we'll talk about the titles, a lot of other stuff. And the deep dives have gotten like tremendous reviews as well. For those who have not seen the deep dive or not listened to the deep dive, we did 2 of them already. We did the UWF tag team titles and the I Like to Talk to Tom deep dives, which got, like I said, rave reviews. They are both available on the $5 tier as well. So patreon.com/Voice of Wrestling for those, and voiceofwrestling.com for all the previews and reviews and all the other stuff. We got previews of, as we said, Nagoya, or the Sengoku Lord in Nagoya show. We'll have a review as well. We have reviews of all the Lines Break shows, review of Slammiversary, a review of the horror show at WWE Extreme Rules if you really want to torture yourself. So we're covering it all, doing everything we can here at Voice of Wrestling to get us all the coverage of all the pro wrestling. So anyway, for Joe Lanza, I'm Rich Craich. We'll talk to you guys next time on the Voice of Wrestling Flagship Podcast. Take care.